Oh my gosh, it worked. Hello, my name is Language Dog, and today I'm going to be doing a 2026 language learning tier list. I am so excited, and I'm not really going to have a big intro, but just in case you don't know what this is, you can skip like a minute and to start seeing me rank the languages. But I'm going to be ranking the languages based off if I already speak them, I'm learning them, already plan to learn them, want to learn them, think that it would be cool, maybe, and no, or languages that I'm just not interested right. Languages that I'm not interested in right now. And I do this tier list every year. I started learning languages in January 2024, so that was my first tier list that I've ever done. I didn't look back on it, nor the one from last year. However, I remember that I only put one language in the already speak category, my native language, which is obviously, and it was my goal that, next year, but whenever it happens that I want at least two languages in the already speak. That was like my sole goal amongst everything that was here. So we're gonna see if that happened, and as well as where all the other languages go. So I am very, very, very excited, and I hope you enjoy the background because I hope that it's a nice visual. It's my college dorm. All right, so the first language is Albanian. Now, Albanian is, of course, spoken in Albania, and it is a language isolate. It's really cool. Um, Now, Albanian to me is a very interesting language. I don't think a lot of people study it, but when I'm thinking about if it's a language I would want to learn, because spoilers, I don't speak Albanian. Now, I speak this, for those who know, but I don't, right now, I don't have any interest in the language, but I will say I did once just a little bit because I spoke with someone from Albania and they were really cool. So if you're Albanian, bro, shouts out to you. Shouts out to freaking everyone. If you're a human being, you're awesome. Most likely. Don't do any stupid stuff. All right. Um, the next language is Armenian. I do believe that this is Armenia. I know I'm American, but I would like to believe I'm better at flags than the average American. This is indeed Armenia. I think Armenian also is a very interesting language with a lot of very cool history. However, it's the same thing with Albanian. I mean, especially given the fact that there's not too many speakers of Armenian, which doesn't necessarily mean that I wouldn't learn it like at all. I just, right now, I don't really have any interest, nor do I have really any emotional attachment to Armenian. As you can tell, we have started off the list quite quite dim. I mean, two languages already that I don't really want to learn, but doesn't mean I don't have any care for them. I absolutely love Albanian. If you speak Albanian, please write a comment in Albanian. If you speak Armenian, like wow, keep especially because it's likely a language that you inherited. If you speak any languages that are passed down to you, please continue to use them. Don't let them die. um, Use your languages, speak your languages, be proud of them. All right. And also tell me where you're from. Comment down below. Tell me where you're from. The next language is Azerbaijani or Azerbaijan. I think it's just called is no Azerbaijan is the country. Oh my god, Azerbaijani is the language. And it's actually a language that I did have interest in learning once. And honestly, I kind of would still like to learn. I think that it would be very interesting. However, just for right now, I am going to put it in the no category just because like there isn't too much interest, and also my whether or not I were to if I would learn this language, it's kind of based off of another language that I would have to learn. It's kind of based off another language, and you'll see what that language is. But for those who don't know, Azerbaijani, it's of course spoken in Azerbaijan. I think it has a fair amount of speakers, and it's a Turkic language, so it's very close to Turkish. And I'm just going to spoil it now. If I had the opportunity to choose between learning Turkish or another Turkic language, bar one, I'm going to choose Turkish. But because it is close to Turkish, and Azerbaijani people are very cool, it's definitely like I can definitely see myself, possibly coming back to Azerbaijani and just like looking at it, getting a feel for it, maybe dabbling in it just a little bit. But for right now, I really don't have any interest. So that's just me being honest. Now, the next language is Belarusian. Belarusian. So if you don't know, this language is spoken in Belarus, but it actually isn't. I'm sorry. If you're from Belarus, well, one, привет, and two, I was speaking Russian. Maybe I was speaking Belarusian, but the point is that you all speak Russian more than you speak Belarusian. Like there are less I believe I'm not, I'm not a Wikipedia page, but I believe that there are more Russian speakers than Belarusian speakers in Belarus, um, and that's equally funny, but also equally a little sad because I do think the language is cool. I think the language is interesting, and I have heard from natives and people who live in Belarus that this idea that there's less Belarusian speakers is kind of a lie and that people in Belarus they do indeed speak Russian, but there's still no denying the impact of Russian, not only of course on Belarus but other neighboring countries and old Soviet Union countries. And so I do feel like the language has been overshadowed a little bit because also it is a Slavic language. If I were to learn other major Slavic languages, Belarusian, it would be definitely more approachable. And I do believe that Belarusian shares more vocabulary with Ukrainian. Um, yeah, I believe it shares vocabulary with Ukrainian, but you can, of course, fact check me on that if I'm wrong. And it'd be cool to learn it, especially because it's a neighboring language. I just think it's kind of such a flex to say that, I know Belarusian. But me also being realistic and, kind of, you know, trying to juggle my priorities, I know I likely won't learn the language, but I am going to put it in a maybe because I do have a very strong interest in the country and the history of Belarus, as well as the people. So we're about 6 minutes in, and we've done 4 languages. I think that's good. I'm trying to do like 5 languages for like 7 minutes. That's good. Um, Probably won't be that. It's probably going to be more like 5 languages every 10 minutes, which is fine. It'll just make for a very long video because we've got about 40 languages to do. So hopefully I could get about 6, 7 languages in 10 minutes. That'd be good. Now the next language is another Slavic language. It's Bosnian, and I feel quite the same about Bosnian. I'll also put it in the maybe. Actually, I could put it in the nope. I'll put it in the maybe. I would really love to put Bosnian. That would be cool. But again, there's likely other languages that I would learn, um, and I'll talk about it in just a second. That you know, there's languages that are really close to Bosnian. I'd rather learn those first before learning Bosnian. But of course, I think Bosnian is very cool. And if I were to learn those languages, which I probably won't be able to because there's just too many languages, not enough time. What a sad world we live in. And yeah, I'd probably learn those languages first before learning Bosnian. But if I were to, I would definitely dabble in Bosnian. I would love to. Bulgarian. Bulgarian. Oh my god. Um, yeah. So if you don't know, Bulgarian is also yet again a Slavic language. It's spoken in Bulgaria, but the really cool thing about the Slavic language is that, well, Bulgarian is like Slavic languages, but like on easy mode. Like it's completely easy, which I find very funny because if you don't know, Slavic languages have cases, and Bulgarian doesn't have cases. It just says like we're not doing cases, and cases are really difficult. Um, I'm not going to explain cases right now. It's just basically a doozy. It's just basically nightmare fuel. So I think I would put Bulgarian in maybe because there is like a world where I see myself learning Bulgarian before learning like another major Slavic language because it's kind of like, well, it's kind of like a stepping stone, like a little like like training wheels. But if that were to happen, it would probably just end up being me just like learning a little bit of Bulgarian, maybe me trying to pick up on words that are likely going to be cognates, words that also appear in the other Slavic languages, and then just stopping at like a high A1, low A2 level. I mean, at a low A2 level, I can claim to be a hyperpolyglot on YouTube, of course, but you know, I'll put it in maybe, but it can definitely go down. I'd say that these ones definitely go down, but we'll see. Now, the next language, Catalan, is also a Slavic language. No, I'm just joking. Catalan, if you don't know, is a language spoken in Spain, spoken in Spain. I'm not sure if a lot of people know about Catalan. I really don't know. I would like to think no. If you're outside of Spain and France and, you know, don't speak a Romance language. Mm, if you're Italian, do you know? I don't know. Comment down below. Have you heard of Catalan? Because I really don't know. But if you're American, probably not. I'm just gonna say if you're from America, you probably don't know Catalan, which is completely fine. But I'm glad I'm the first to tell you because Catalan is a really cool language, and although it does hold a lot of let's just say, it holds a lot of how do I put this? Let's just say people have feelings about Catalan, whether or not they speak it, especially in Spain when it comes to politics, which I'm not going to get into. But let's just say that the language definitely holds a lot of that pressure, a lot of that political pressure on it. So it is very important in those ways. But I'm not going to talk about that, nor do I really think about that too much um, regarding if I were to learn it. If I were to learn it, it would be me, immersing myself into another side of Spain and Spanish culture because I went to Spain in 2025 and I didn't go to Barcelona. And if you don't know Catalan, I've spoken there. And I think if I were to learn Catalan, it would definitely just like, you know, even more so than just having Spanish. Just, I would just like drown into the culture and the people around them. And I do think Catalan is a very interesting language. And honestly, I'm not sure if I would call it beautiful. I'm sorry. And how when it's spoken, my mind could definitely change. But I do find it interesting to the point where I just think that, I find it very I have a lot of respect for Catalan, especially that it's a language that like has been spoken for so long, that's surviving. And it definitely does have its own identity. Catalan, also, if you don't know, is sort of like a mixture between French and Spanish. So, like, if you know those languages already, I would challenge you to read Catalan and just see if you can understand it because it's likely that you can if you already know those two languages. It's likely that I should put this language in the would be cool, but I'm just going to put it at the bottom of want to learn. It'll be probably fairly clear why in a second. Um, why is it like want to learn? And it's basically just me like it just makes sense of the other languages that I'm going to learn in the future, or that I plan to learn in the future. That Catalan will kind of just naturally like nudge its way in there because like I'll already know like kind of how to read it. I already know how to read it, spoiler, to a fine degree, and it'll kind of just make sense to. And I do have a genuine heart and passion. I want to say passion, but I do have definitely a genuine interest in learning Catalan. Before going to Spain, I was like trying to find ways that I could learn Catalan and just know a little bit of Catalan before going to the country. And I did use just a little bit, just a smidge, just a little bit of Catalan, which I do not dare to recite here on stream. So I apologize. So it's 13 minutes, and I've only done 7 languages, so that's great. Well, I have news for you that um, this next language is going to take a ton of time. So it's I can't help it. I love talking about languages. The next language is Mandarin Chinese. Oh my god. This language, bro. This language. This language. For those who speak Mandarin. I'll let you guys figure that out on your own and have your minds blown once you understand the meaning of that. And yes, by telling how bad that is, I did indeed write that. Um, yeah, so I love Mandarin Chinese. I think that Mandarin Chinese is one of the languages that before I started learning languages, because I started learning languages in 2024, as I said, before I started learning languages, it was one of those languages that sparked my interest in like oh my gosh, it would be cool to speak multiple languages. Didn't spark my interest in the fact of like, oh, I actually like I'm gonna learn a language. I'm gonna like, commit to it. No, that didn't happen till later, till the end of 2023. But Mandarin, because of someone called Xiaoma, I'm sure you know him. Because of Mandarin as well as another language, Japanese, I just, have a big like childlike wonder attached like to the language, and just thinking that it would be really cool, especially for a foreigner to speak the language. So, a lot of that is inherited in naivete. But I am glad that I had that because it gave like a general like curiosity because it is such a foreign language to someone like myself. And I am now, if you couldn't tell, learning it, but for very different reasons than just like it would be cool. I actually do find a lot of value in the language, a lot of value in not only learning the language, but using the language in the modern world. And I find it very important to use it. Now, I'm going to hold off on using a lot of my Mandarin here um, because, of course, I'm still learning it. I'm not going to force a lot of output, but don't worry, I'm not one of those people who, I mean, if you are, it's fine. Like, if you prefer not to speak, like when you're learning a language like at all, that's completely fine. Me personally, I do, but I will say I speak at certain times and at certain points often. And right now I'm just not really gonna, speak or try and like force the output or anything like that. Um, because I don't want to like create any bad habits or anything. But I love speaking, if you can't tell, and I love outputting language. So don't get the wrong idea. Now, I recently went on a trip and I got these amazing books um, from Australia. And I went on a trip and I got my favorite piece of literature, not literature, sorry, my favorite piece of like, I mean, I used to say it was my favorite piece of like art ever. Maybe that could be debated now. I've definitely grown up a lot, but Death Note was really like the first piece of media that I had experienced that like I just completely like, you know, I just like fell in love with, and to have it in Mandarin Chinese is just like a complete. It's just like insane to me. Like I can't believe I have it. So this is really cool. I can't wait to start reading this in Mandarin Chinese. So, and then I also have this book right here, as well as this book. Yeah, I know, very, maybe not so YouTube friendly. Um, and I'm really excited. As you can tell, I haven't taken them out of the packaging. I really want to take care of my books, but I'm very excited to read them, and I'm so glad that I could read them. Now, comment down below if you want to know the names of those books, besides Death Note, of course. And if you don't like Mandarin Chinese, well, I'm sorry. I don't make a comment then because I'll know your name. No, but this should show my passion for Death Note, as well as this book has. It actually has. Where is it? Oh, it's right here. It actually has a Chinese translation in it. It's just under the Japanese, so for those who aren't familiar with the differences, they might not be able to tell. It also has Chinese in it, which is really cool. So when I started reading the manga, because if you don't know, it features rules in it, and this is sort of like the rule book, as well as you can write names down in here. You can write names down in here. Oh, I gave this to some friends, and they wrote people's names in it. I've never written in this personally, but yeah, I'll definitely be reading that in practice because my greatest strength in Mandarin Chinese is reading. I love reading, um, and that's my greatest strength. And I can read both simplified and traditional. I do believe that if you are the esteemed scholar and you are looking to have maybe not necessarily a life in Mandarin Chinese, but to like get, pretty well experienced in the language and, use it a lot, interact with people, but also definitely, of course, interacting when it comes to like reading newspapers, going to the supermarket, being able to look at things and buy them. Um, as well as just going abroad in general. I think knowing both simplified and traditional is important. I do genuinely believe that you just should know both. Um, I think that you should just know. So I'm definitely learning both. And I honestly don't think it makes the process any slower for me. I genuinely believe that. So that was a rant. This video is only getting longer. But yeah, Mandarin Chinese. I'm learning it. I love Mandarin. And if you don't, I understand that some people, especially a lot of like language learners, are kind of like tired of Mandarin in the sense that they feel like it's kind of been overblown. I definitely can understand that. But for me, I still love speaking the language just because I just think it's like, you're like just, you're crossing, it allows you to cross a bridge and connect with people in ways that you otherwise wouldn't be able to connect with them if you didn't know their language and culture. And being able to connect with people who speak Chinese, people who are Chinese, is just amazing. It's just very amazing for me, and I'm super glad to have started learning the language. I've been learning it for about 5 months now. Okay, now the next language is also a Slavic language. This next language is Croatian. Now, Croatian is spoken in Croatia, and about like 15 minutes ago, when I said that shortly, I'd be talking about the language that's similar to Bosnian. Yeah, it's definitely been a little bit. I was mentioning Croatian, and I would like to put Croatian in the would be cool, but honestly, I'm just gonna put it in the maybe. Or I mean, no, I would like to learn Croatian. I think Croatian is very interesting, but I'm gonna have to wait till the end and then move stuff around, just because I have lost a little bit of interest for Croatian over time. But I definitely still think it's a very interesting language, as well as a very useful language for Slavic languages, especially because if you want to be, the super like pumped, like polyglot who like knows like 6, 7 languages, this is your cheat code because you can learn this language and then claim to speak 4 other ones. Most people think that it's just three, but no, I do believe it's 4 other ones as well. Um, it's a little phenomenon, and it's you are like literally like gaslit into believing that yourself because Croatian is similar to another language, Serbian, and Serbians will say that it's not the same language, and Croats will say it's not the same language. So I mean, you are forced into saying, okay, I speak 2 different languages, so it's perfect. It's literally perfect for those who want to like learn one language super quickly, speak with a lot of mistakes, and be like, oh yeah, I just learned 2 languages in like 6 weeks because like that's how good I am. And you could definitely do it. I think Croatian, even like say if you want to learn Russian, I think Croatian could be a good first step into Slavic languages as well. But me personally, I think I'd probably learn it afterwards. I'd probably learn it after I were to learn one of the bigger Slavic languages. Again, speaking about Slavic languages, I guess just all the Slavic languages start with, I guess all the letters start with, letters early in the alphabet because this is in alphabetical order, if I believe, yeah, this is all in alphabetical order. Yeah, this is in alphabetical order. Anyway, Czech. Czech is a very interesting one for me because Czechia is really cool. I love the Czech Republic. I love Czech people. Czech food looks good. And I definitely want to go to Prague. I mean, like, who doesn't want to go to Prague? But the only thing for me is that although I think the language looks super cool written down, I think it has an amazing aura around it. Like, it's a language you kind of can't, like, escape a lot in the sense of it just being named. Spoken, yeah, but in the sense of it being named and kind of being present, if you're, you want to be a polyglot or learning languages, you can't, like, go your life without hearing about it if you're on like language learning space online, because if you don't know, most like all the hyper polyglot the polyglot gatherings, they're held in Prague, in Czechia. They're held there. So like Czech of course is spoken, but because there's a lot of people of different nationalities in Czechia, in Prague specifically, you won't necessarily hear Czech as much as you would like if you were in a country where there weren't as many, people of different nationalities speaking other languages, not just tourists, like people just living there, right? So, like to my understanding, by watching videos, like you can go to Czechia and like not hear as much Czech as you would expect to, which is very fascinating. The reason I haven't would be cool is, of course, I want to go to the Czech Republic. I've always like thought about Czech. I even did like watch some like Czech podcast 101 videos, just to like kind of look at, okay, like how would it what would it be like to learn Czech. I did some Czech Duolingo as well. I thought it was very funny. Um, it's just the only thing. Another thing is that I don't think Czech sounds beautiful. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Especially if you speak Czech. It's not a language that I find very like attractive when someone speaks it. So that kind of knocks it down because I also think like a language sounding nice really does it for me. And I think most languages sound, just fine. I don't really like judge that much, but when it comes to like learning them, I kind of think about, okay, like how would it feel to like speak it? How would it sound? And Czech doesn't really give that to me when speaking it, but writing it and like living the lifestyle, definitely. It's cool to be someone who, is learning languages and would maybe want to go to like a polyglot gathering or speak with people online, and then they do know Czech because they of course know the significance of it. And it's like a Slavic language that is studied less. Definitely not like the least studied. No, I would say it's probably in the middle, but it's definitely less studied than the major ones. So it's kind of like a slope when it comes to studying Slavic languages. Hmm. And maybe now I'm starting to think maybe like it is one of the top studied ones, like technically speaking. It just doesn't feel like it because there's a pretty big jump from like Russian, Polish, like big major ones, and then like honestly a big jump between like Russian and then Polish as well. But anyway, I digress. We're now going to get to Danish, Danish, Danish. Oh my god, yeah, yeah, it's good dansk. Yeah, yeah, dansk. I'm not learning Danish. I do know that in my last years, I did, maybe I put learning or already plan to learn, but I did go to Denmark, and jeg elsker Denmark. Jeg elsker Copenhagen. Copenhagen. Und jeg elsker rågården rågården and oh my god. Uh, fruitbolle or fruitbolle. It's like literally like cream balls. That sounds very sus, but it's this delicacy in Denmark. It's like a pastry, and it's really good. It has some pretty sus historical origins, but it's really good. I love Danish. I love the language. I think it's really goofy, and I think it's like literally one of the best languages of all time when it comes to like how it makes you feel. It makes me feel super happy, super excited. And speaking it just like you know, kind of gives me joy. You might be confused, like, oh, speaking it. So why don't you put in the learning or already speak? And why is it down here and want to learn? Well, I can't vote it dansk. And that's basically to say, I don't know nothing. Now, I did study Danish or tried to study Danish for about a month, but I ran into a big problem: resources. There's just not a lot of resources, man, for learning Danish. Like, it sucks because Danish is one of the easier languages um, for English speakers. Being a native English speaker, it's one of the easiest languages that you could learn on the whole planet. The problem is that there's not a lot of resources, so it's very hard to like find ways to connect with the language. And also, it sucks that like not only is the language, the way it's written down, like vastly different than how you would think it's pronounced, even pronouncing it technically correctly differs from how people now speak it in Denmark. Like when, like, how they speak, how they can sometimes speak fast, or when they use, contractions, and maybe they just say things like different, like completely different, entirely. Um, Especially depending on where they are in Denmark. Now, this is very conflicting for me because I would love to just, immediately learn Danish and just speak it. It makes me feel very quirky, but also fulfilled because I do genuinely love the language and the people and the country. The country is so nice, so beautiful. I really do want to go back, but it's just so hard. And also, like, for me, it's not too much of an issue. It's fine, but I'll just say this: if you're right, curiosity in Danish, or you're someone that cares about, utility with the language, it definitely is not really practical unless like you're a huge Scandinavian person. Like if you're someone who wants to like be a Viking, find a time machine and like be a Viking. Well, one, I already beat you to it, and two, like yeah, that's cool, but you're probably one of the few because Danish isn't spoken by a lot of people, and so it will be hard for you to find people abroad who speak the language, especially in America. I do believe that I heard it once when I was in Australia, which was insane. I was like, oh my god, someone's speaking Danish. Oh my god, someone's speaking Danish. Woke up with shit. Kartoffel. I do. Is that Danish or German or both? I'm not sure. I would put it in the already plan to learn, but for reasons I just stated, I'm going to put in the want to learn just because it's hard to find resources, and I have found ways after returning from Denmark to like, if I were to learn Danish, what I would do, and what I would do to like actually like basically immerse myself in the language, being able to actually learn it instead of just like moving there in order to learn the language, which honestly I'm not opposed to. I would love to live in Denmark, but I'm broke. And I definitely found some better ways, and I do feel like if I spend more time on it, I can make a system and optimize it really well, and then actually learn Danish. But it's just because that isn't like fully complete, and there are languages that I would put above Danish. I'm gonna put it in the want to learn. But I could definitely go to already plan to learn because in my heart it's like, yeah, I'm probably gonna speak Danish, but I'm trying to be a little more conservative with this list. Um, and yeah, but we'll change that at the end. We'll see what happens. Now Estonian. Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit of a. No, it's not a personal story, really that personal, but one that is kind of near and dear to my heart. It's after I was learning my first. I started learning my first language, and I think it was maybe about like maybe it's before I like really started getting good at the language or after. I can't remember if it was summer. It was the beginning of summer or at the end of summer, but I basically watched this video of someone asking people on the street, how many languages do you speak? And it's not the new travel, but shouts out. And they were in Estonia, and they're asking people, and I just like remember like having this like huge like breakthrough in my mind, like this realization that wow, there's just like so many other like places in the world besides like being here at McDonald's in America. There's so many other like places with like people, things that are like vibrant, like they're just doing their things, they're in their own vibe. And just seeing that video of like Estonia and like the people there, and like it just seems so beautiful too in Estonia, not only like the people but also like the shops and like the streets. It all seemed kind of like it was like frozen in time in a way, and it kind of seemed all like to themselves, but not in a bad way. And it seemed really nice. I was like, wow, like it would be so cool to just like learn Estonian. Like I would just like learn Estonian because it's like wow, like this language, like hearing it spoken and seeing where it's spoken has made me feel like that there is like a lot to be learned. There's a lot to know about the world, and it gives me genuine excitement thinking about the first time I watched that video and saw those people, just speaking their language and talking about what they would like to learn because it just gave me so much inspiration. And I remember, the full impact of that I felt in that moment when I first watched that video. So with all that being said, I'm going to put Estonian in the nope category. Now, Estonian in a perfect world would be so cool to learn, but the reality is that Estonian is harder than Iraq in Estonia because it's freezing there. Estonian is related to Finnish, if I'm not mistaken, and they're both languages with tons and tons of cases. Um, and they're also, for Finnish, there are resources. There's resources for Finnish, which is really cool. But for Estonian, it's hard to find a lot. I mean, maybe I just haven't dug digging deep enough. I haven't dug. I haven't. I haven't done a lot of digging when it comes to resources in Estonian, but I can just assume, like for languages with not that many speakers, only spoken in like one place, like as like an official language, as a majority language, and also like I don't really feel I don't have a lot of like practicality with the language. Like I feel like if I learn it, it'd be hard to use it with people. And I'd already said before that yes, even if the language isn't spoken that much, I could still learn it, still find my me. But I do love speaking with people. So the thing that usually makes up for it is that I have a genuine passion like for the language and the culture so that I could use that language to then speak with people, no matter how few it is. And I'm not sure if I'm fully there with the Estonian. I'm not sure if like because I never like truly had like a big passion for like Estonian, like the language. Like I watched that video, felt inspired, but then was like, okay, I'm gonna take this inspiration and put it into the language I'm currently learning now, type of thing. Um, but if I were to, look at more videos about Estonia, more videos of people speaking Estonian, people who have learned Estonian, maybe I would find interest in it, especially because it's a language that nobody learns. It's a language that, you know, not a lot of people study. And I think it's really cool if you say you speak Estonian or that you're learning Estonian. I do think that is really impressive and that's really admirable. I definitely do think that is really admirable. So shouts out to you if you are learning Estonian or have ever thought about learning it. The next language is Basque. I think this has been called the devil's language before. You don't know, Basque is the language spoken in Spain. It's another language isolate. No one knows where it has come from. I believe that it's the origin of all languages. We're all related to Basque in some way. Its greatest ever offspring was, of course, Basque Icelandic pigeon, which is sadly no longer with us. But again, it's really cool. It's extremely interesting, and it's really cool to probably like learn a few like phrases and then like speak it, and then say that you're like learning a language that like not a lot of people know about, nobody speaks. Though more people are learning about it, which I'm super happy about. But I probably wouldn't learn Basque. I'm just gonna be honest. Like I probably wouldn't learn Basque at least right now. Maybe one day, like if I end up like you know, like becoming like a citizen of Spain and like absolutely like becoming like a Spaniard and going like, crazy for Spanish culture. Totally see myself, dabbling in Basque because obviously I live in the country, but it's a little hard to. And it's also a little hard that in Spain, I had a conversation with someone and they had told me that they considered Basque a dialect of Spanish, but I digress. I do hope that it gets the representation it deserves in Spain, which I believe it does. It definitely does. Now, and yeah, side note, Spain has great representation of its languages, and that there's multiple languages spoken. I think that is really cool. More languages and more countries need to do that. The aforementioned Finnish, as related to Estonian, is the language that out of the two, if I were to learn, I'd probably learn Finnish, even though like Estonian is like probably the more cooler choice and like the one that like I would like to say I would learn. I'd have to admit that like if it was life or death situation, I'm probably gonna pick Finnish. It makes more sense, more speakers. I do believe more cases, but also I think like I would probably like to see Finland too. Not that I wouldn't like to see Estonia. Estonia would probably be cool, but Finland as well. I think it's very cool, and it's close to Scandinavia as well. And as we all know, Finland was the happiest country. I don't think it is anymore. I think it is Denmark. Probably because we have optimists. If you don't know what that is, you haven't lived. You need to look up Optimist, buy one, and get yourself one. I sadly don't have one on me right now. But yeah, I'm probably gonna put it. No, I think I'm gonna put it in nope. Oh my god, this list. Oh lord. I could I might change it to maybe later on, just because it is very, out there to learn Finnish, but definitely a lot of respect if you do. But right now, I just genuinely don't like have a lot of attachment to Finnish right now. I don't. I do think like these three languages here are like the literal definition of me having like a lot of curiosity in like the language itself, but not a lot of emotional connection to actually learn that language. And that goes for the next language, French. This language, of course, is hello. Okay, well, this language, of course, is terrible. French sucks. I think the language itself is interesting because, of course, it influenced English, but it's not a language that I ever like to speak. Not a language I'd ever like to learn. I think it sounds very terrible, and I'm not going to learn it. So I'll honestly just put it all the way down here because it's the greatest lesson. I've never learned French personally. I apologize. Now, the next language is Georgian. If you don't know, Georgian is not spoken in the state of Georgia. It's actually spoken in country Georgia. I'm just kidding. J'aime bien le français. Oh my god, guys. I feel like I'm too excited right now to even start speaking French because I just won't even speak it properly. I have so much joy in my heart. But no. It's hard for me to say that I speak French. Je suis pas sûr. Parce que d'habitude, je dis pas que je prends une langue ou que je sais une langue. Mais le français. Alors, qu'est-ce que je peux dire? Donc, le français, c'était la première langue que j'ai apprise en 2024, en janvier. Mon histoire avec la langue, c'est un peu longue, mais basiquement, je voulais apprendre une langue parce que je voulais sortir ma boule, tu vois. Et je pense que le français, c'est une langue, c'est très populaire, mais aussi j'aime bien la culture française et aussi la gastronomie française aussi. Et je me disais que je peux apprendre la langue parce que, en fait, l'anglais, oui, l'anglais, c'est la langue que tout le monde parle. Mais le français, je veux parler une autre langue. Pas juste l'anglais. Pas juste l'anglais dans les États-Unis. Pas juste anglais à l'étranger, en France ou dans des autres pays. Je voudrais en fait réellement apprendre une différente langue et j'aimerais aller en France, à Paris, et parler avec les gens en leur langue, dans la langue française. Donc, j'ai commencé à apprendre la langue et j'ai commencé à regarder des vidéos très différentes en français, des vidéos de, de, de la street, des vlogs, quoi. Donc, parfois, je parle comme. Je, je dis les mots comme wesh et ref et mon pote. C'est un peu comme c'est l'argot et parfois j'utilise aussi le violon. Mais aussi, j'ai regardé des vidéos académiques, quoi. Et je peux aussi, si je veux, parler académique. Et ça, c'est la raison pour laquelle j'aime bien la langue, parce que je peux m'exprimer totalement différent. Je peux me jouer totalement différent. Je peux me jouer très élégant, très fluide, mais aussi complètement stupide et juste fou. Et c'est très ouf, j'aime bien ça. Et si tu ne peux pas écouter, si tu ne peux pas voir, l'enfance est maintenant, c'est pas le meilleur. J'avais pas utilisé non, mon français cette année en fait. Cette année, j'avais pas utilisé la langue beaucoup. Donc, j'ai besoin d'utiliser la langue un peu plus cette année. Premièrement, je vais l'utiliser parce que je pense qu'à l'exception de l'anglais, c'est ma meilleure langue. J'ai besoin euh, d'utiliser la langue et on saurait que je peux continuer à savoir la langue aussi. Et oui, je suis très ravi de dire que je peux parler français. Est-ce que je pense que je parle le français couramment? Donc, techniquement, je peux dire oui, parce que j'ai ce certificat B2. Mais en fait, je, euh, je pense que je me suis pas intéressé si je parle une langue parfaite ou couramment, quoi. J'aime bien juste apprendre les langues et je voudrais parler une langue. Et si je voudrais être très bien ou être très fluide et confident, je vais être juste ça. Si je voudrais parler le français avec beaucoup de confiance, je vais essayer de faire ça. Mais si je voudrais parler juste un peu de français, pas beaucoup, et juste dire les phrases basiques, je vais aussi dire ça. Je vais aussi, je vais juste faire ça. Je vais pas approfondir ou je vais pas explorer des autres choses. Je vais juste faire ça. Donc, avec une langue, je fais ce que je veux. Et avec le français, je pense que juste pour maintenant, euh, j'ai j'ai fait ce que j'ai voulu. J'ai voulu. Désolé. J'ai fait ce que j'ai voulu, en fait. Mais probablement, je pense que ça avait changé euh, parce que je pense qu'il y a beaucoup d'opportunités avec le français euh, qui me présente. Donc, il faudrait bien que j'apprenne juste un peu plus et jamais je peux améliorer mon français. Mais maintenant, je pense que je me sens à l'aise. Pas complètement, oui, bien sûr, je fais des erreurs. C'est probablement que j'avais fait plusieurs erreurs dans cette, pas conversation, cette monologue. Mais oui, je suis très contente avec le français. Et wesh, omelette du fromage, croissant, baguette, oui, 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 tu es gay. Yeah. Basically, if you don't understand French and didn't know what I said, I think the language sucks. That's what I said. No, I think the language is really cool, and I love French, and I'm so glad I learned it. Um, and yeah, it was the first language I learned. It's a language that opened the world for me. I wanted to actually kind of break out of a barrier that I felt. I felt very disconnected from like the real world. I wanted to like actually like explore what's out there more than just what I know. I want to speak with more people. I don't want to just speak English. I want to be able to just like go abroad and like understand different cultures and people. And I felt like it would also really help me mentally because I wasn't, I was kind of sad that I've like for a multitude of reasons, which I won't get into. But I was kind of sad because it was just like, man, like there is so much in the world that I could see that I could know about. And I feel like a lot of people aren't, taking the time out of their day to learn about it. People, they're kind of just, stuck in their own little bubbles, not, exploring and learning about other people and cultures and languages. And not that you have to learn other languages, although I highly recommend it. I think it's just important that we at least like take some time and just dedicate some time to like, looking at how other people live and how other people do things. And I was like, you know what? Why don't I fully what if I fully like what's the word? I don't even je peux pas parler anglais maintenant parce que j'ai utilisé le français beaucoup. I doubled down. Oui, ça c'est le mot. Ça c'est le mot. Désolé. J'ai j'ai aussi, bro. Okay, my mind is effed up right now. But I basically doubled down, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna learn the language. I'm gonna learn the language. I'm just gonna like go crazy. So I learned it en janvier, février. J'ai fait une pause pendant 3 mois. Oui, ça c'est vrai. Donc j'ai pas étudié là. Mais après ça, en juin, j'ai continué. Et en juillet, euh, je suis arrivé à Paris, oui. Et j'ai gagné ça. Yeah, I learned it in. I don't want to say I learned it in 3 months. I mean, I technically learned it after studying very hard for 3 months, but a more accurate description is that I studied in January, February. I didn't study March to May, but I did make sure, like, okay, I put in this much work. School's getting hard. I have to focus on school. I can't do like French that much anymore. But when I'm on the toilet or about to go to bed, I'll watch a video for 5 minutes or do a Duolingo lesson. So that's what I did. The max I did in those like months was like maybe 10, 15 minutes a day. I really didn't do a lot, but I made sure to like maintain the language. So I didn't study, but I still listened to the language for maybe like 10, 15 minutes a day. And I spoke whenever I could. If there was like somehow like a small chance that I was able to speak with someone who spoke French, I spoke with them. Um, and at the end of May, I had finally finished school, so I started getting the habit of speaking French again. And in June, I just went crazy. And then in July, I went to France and I got my certificate in French, um, B2, B2, dash. And yeah, so that's my story with French. It's been nearly an hour, and I've done 15 languages so far. And oh god, there's wait, really? 30, 24, 32, 33. There's 36 languages? Okay. I should probably hurry this up so I'm not here for 4 hours. The next language, Georgian, is not spoken in Georgia. It's spoken in the country of Georgia. Um, and I think it is a very interesting language. I'm probably going to put it in the note tier, but I do think it is very fun to try and to try pronouncing the language and to try, speaking the language like a little bit. I think it's very interesting, fun. And I also think the alphabet is really cool and really interesting. Maybe one day I'll dial in Georgian. Let's see. I could maybe change my mind. German. Oh god, no, this is gonna be another long one. I can't keep doing this. I just have to skip this language, don't I? No, I'll go with it. German, Deutsch. Ja, 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 ich kann ein bisschen Deutsch sprechen. Mein Deutsch ist nicht so gut. Ich, ich kann nicht, habe eine Konversation in Deutsch. Oh, wait, that doesn't make sense. Ich kann nicht eine Konversation in Deutsch haben, aber ich liebe die deutsche Sprache. I don't even know if I'm using the right grammar or articles. You can't tell. Ich danke, dass Deutsch sehr cool ist. I think Deutsch. I think German is freaking lit and is really cool, and I also think it's very frustrating. For those who don't know, German at times just feels very annoying when it shouldn't be. It's a language that, although it's more distant to English than other languages out there, it's a language that definitely isn't the hardest thing in the world. Languages like Russian, Mandarin, Chinese, Arabic are hard. At least they're supposed to be hard because at times it just feels like for whatever reason, German is always just kicking. Like it's just kicking your butt. It just always feels like that, like you're just being like shot in the back. Um, in German, and that it's always like you're always like getting hit in the face with like another like grammatical case or like another like article that you got wrong or like a like word that is 30 characters long, bro. Oh my gosh. Oh, bro. With all that being said, I do love German, and I'll probably put in the already plan to learn, just because I already, did. I wouldn't say learned it because I don't speak German, but I did try learning it. I was in a period for about like 2 months of like actually seriously studying it. And of course, I've gone on and off of, I wouldn't say seriously studying the language, but using the language, learning some things, with a friend of mine, maybe learning some phrases, using just a little, going out and learning the grammar, watching videos. But it was really only for like two separated months. I'd say August, October. What did I do in September? I don't know. But basically, for like 2 months in 2024, I was really like into like, doing German, and I was actually making a lot of progress, but it just wasn't realistic with my work schedule as well, which is very sad. And I'm just in a very interesting position with German because obviously my place full of Chinese right now, so it's hard for me to fit in when exactly I could spend time for German. But we'll see. And if I'm definitely given the opportunity to go to a German speaking country, or go abroad and have to speak German, if it's like I'm going to be in a situation where it's needed, I will 100%, like in a heartbeat, start committing to it again, because I do think the language is very beautiful and really interesting. It just can be very annoying sometimes. Man, this list doesn't even look like I'm a language like learner. Like I have everything like down here. Okay, the next language is Greek. Now, this is not. I'm not going to be referring to ancient Greek when I talk about if I would learn Greek, because I'm talking about modern Greek. But I will mention ancient Greek in the sense that it does have a big aura around it. Like imagine saying you speak ancient Greek. That's freaking cool. You probably look like a massive nerd though, but it is really insane. Greek would be cool. I have a friend, Mateos Trivas or Drivas. If you don't know him, subscribe, check him out. Go check out his language app. He speaks Greek, and it's a really cool language. The whole alphabet's math, so like if you're good at math, you should be able to read the alphabet. And the alphabet's also another driving force for me. I think like reading the alphabet, because I love writing. Being able to read it and write it is just like would be a dream. Which, and I could probably do it. Like I could probably just like after recording this video, just spend a week like really just like nailing the alphabet, and then just like be able to write. Like of course, I wouldn't. I still have to learn the language, but I could look at something or like be given like a word, like how it's said, and then I could write it. Maybe not, probably not. But basically, what I'm saying, like if I have the phonology, the alphabet, and I learn how to read the characters and start saying things, reading, and then copying what I wrote down, and then reading that, that'd be really cool. And I do think that this is a case where, unlike Czech, the language is very beautiful. I do think that the language just is very beautiful sounding. I think that it does sound cool. It kind of sounds like Spanish as well, which always like trips me up. It's like I'm having a stroke. Like my brain can like identify. Like it feels like my brain should identify what's going on, but I can't. So it's very weird. I also would love to go to Greece. Would love to explore the culture. I'm sure the people are lit, and I would love to troll and engage in the political conflicts going down there. However, it's not a priority language. There's other languages that I'd probably seriously commit to first. And honestly, yeah, that's kind of like all I really have to like say about it right now. I do think it's a fascinating language, but it kind of just ends up being that language where I think is really fascinating, and I definitely do see a point where I could commit to it. But right now, I'm not at that point, so I'm going to leave it at that. Sort of a similar case for the next language, Cantonese, which again, Mateos Drivas speaks. He speaks Cantonese. He's learning Cantonese. He's a goat, really is. Um, he he speaks his languages better than Mandarin. He's also learning Mandarin. He really is the goat. Oh my god, wow. But anyway, Cantonese. Cantonese is harder than Mandarin Chinese. Definitely way harder than Mandarin Chinese, in my opinion. I would argue, If you don't know, it's a language. It's a Chinese language because Chinese, in reality, is multiple languages. This is just Mandarin Chinese, and then this is Cantonese. It's the second. It's the second most spoken Chinese language out there. If my memory serves me correctly, I believe that to be correct. It also has great culture, great history behind it, spoken in different places. And it honestly is extremely respectable. Like, and really, like, you have to admire someone if they go out and they learn Cantonese and not Mandarin, you know? And for most people, they learn Mandarin and not touch Cantonese, or learn Mandarin, just know a little bit. And then there are some people who learn Mandarin and then learn Cantonese. And that would probably be me, not to spoil the placement. But I do really have to respect those who just learn Cantonese first, you know, even if like they are learning it, to like hook up with someone, or they're learning it for family reasons, or like maybe their family does speak it and they want to connect with them. I still do think that like the fact that like Mandarin has like this big shadow over like this looming presence over Cantonese, and you still go out there to learn the language, is very respectable in my opinion. With that said, I'm going to put it in the nope tier. No, I'm just joking. I'm going to put it. I do want to put it in the want to learn. I kind of am thinking of like through my life a little bit in the sense that like I would learn Mandarin. I'd spend a lot of years on my Mandarin, and then eventually have a little Cantonese in my bucket. So I should technically put in the want to be cool. I'm gonna be a little conservative and put it in the would be cool, just because I also kind of think of this as like learning the language and then eventually wanting to like get really good at it. And Cantonese, of course, would take a real long time to get good at it, and it would make sense for as far as languages is to like fulfill my Mandarin, get good at my Mandarin. Not because I think I would confuse them, because the languages are as similar as they can be. They are different. They're not mutually intelligible at all, at least on my ears. Um, but I want to get really good at knowing both the simplified and traditional characters in Mandarin. So then, me knowing the traditional characters and having the Mandarin meanings hard locked to my brain, then I can go to the Cantonese, and I already have like the Chinese well locked to my brain, but like the Chinese meanings of the words and the readings. But I'll just kind of take out the meanings. Just sorry, I'll take out like the readings, like when I see a character, and then when I see the character, I'll probably like know like what the character means most likely, its significance in the sentence, and I'll learn the new meaning and the new reading. Sorry, I'll learn the new reading, the new way of how to read the character, and then I'll learn how to use it in a sentence because words have different grammatical functions in Cantonese, and I would like to make sure that I get the grammatical functions down in Chinese, way I orient things in Chinese before I were to seriously do that in Cantonese as well, because they can differ. But I mean, I can totally also see myself like in 1 year, like really like still like going hard on my Chinese, community my Chinese, and like learning some Cantonese, like just like a few words, like some greetings, things that are similar, things that could be practical, and food. A lot of food names, right? I was seriously debating before my trip to Australia that I'm keep learning Mandarin, but I should just like learn like all like the names of like you know foods in Cantonese, because there's also a big Cantonese speaking population in Australia, which I did hear quite frequently, right? Maybe even more than Chinese, which is kind of funny. Um, but yeah, Cantonese is very important in Australia. So, hmm hmm wow, I'm going really slow. The next language is Hungarian. If you don't know, Hungarian is a really hard language. It's super hard. Has notoriously been claimed to have 80 cases, and more realistically has 18 cases. But in reality, it's more so just the way that you form words with prepositions, and you would call it a different case. So, for example, like, well, actually, I don't want to give examples because I might give out misinformation. Just basically like how we would have prepositions in English, like to, on, under, could be combined with a word in Hungarian, like a noun, and it would be considered its own case. So it might not be as hard as some people make out, but when spoken at the speed of light, in native conversations, and of course the vocabulary being vastly different than anything we've seen before, it's going to be a super hard language. And it has a lot of aura around it of, not only it being like one of the hardest languages out there, language that not a lot of people learn, but also a language that is surprisingly difficult for native speakers. Because I talked with a Hungarian and asked him to, say something in Hungarian. I told him to say a tongue twister, I believe. Or actually, no, I do believe I just said, "Hey, say something in Hungarian," and they started speaking, and then like halfway through, they started like glitching. It was like, "Wait, that's not how you say it." And it's not like there's someone who has like Hungarian family and then they like live in America or a foreign country and they don't speak it. They are from Hungary. They speak Hungarian every day, allegedly, because right there they could not speak Hungarian. And yes, we were practicing our French, but we hadn't been speaking French, we were speaking English. And then we gave him time to speak Hungarian. And yes, maybe it took a second for his brain to switch. Maybe he just, wasn't used to that. But bro, like it was just crazy. It was like bro couldn't speak Hungarian. It was so funny. And he's a native. But I'm sure he's just an exception. But that should just be a warning to all you guys. I would love to put in maybe, but I'm gonna put it in nope. I'm gonna put it in nope, just because I don't see myself like realistically like looking at it and then going like, yeah, I'm gonna learn Hungarian like fluently. But it is really funny, and it would be cool like to learn it. But I know that I don't like have like an actual interest to do so right now. But if you are learning Hungarian, that is admittedly very cool. As well as the next language, Icelandic, which is trapped in time, and I do kind of have like a connection with Iceland. Not any like physical like I don't have like any heritage related to Iceland. That's not what I mean. Um, at least to my knowledge. But I do think Iceland's very cool. I think the language is one frozen in time, very different than the other Scandinavian languages because the language is Germanic language related to Danish, Swedish, Norwegian. It was famously said by Joshua, Kevin, language sim, Lottie Daddy Lover 267, that it's an easy language and that after he masters his Danish, he can go out and learn Icelandic in a week or something like that. Couldn't be further from the truth. This language is the hardest Germanic language besides Yiddish, not only in my opinion, but also according to statistics. Besides like Gothic, like sounds like Gothic, but yeah, this language is quite difficult, quite different than other Scandinavian languages, um, and it's hard to understand. There's diminishing speakers, but it is still spoken, and there needs to be more resources for it. And I hope there is because I do think it's a very fascinating language. And I will put it in maybe just because like I'm probably not going to learn Icelandic, but compared to these other languages, if I had to like choose one, maybe I technically wouldn't choose Icelandic first. Maybe like I would technically choose like a Finnish, but I think Icelandic just kind of makes a little more sense for me because I already have interest in Germanic languages, Scandinavian languages, as we'll see. And I also think the country's freaking cool. And if you're a chess master, Icelandic is also very important because there's a lot of tournaments held in Reykjavik. Now the question is, where do I put this here? Where do I put this? Probably, probably below Bulgarian. I'd probably like consider doing Bulgarian before Icelandic. I'll put Icelandic in maybe. Hindi. I had this idea in my life. I saw it one time that I would love to go out and be one of those people that speak all 10 of the most spoken languages on earth. Or that would be cool if it eventually got to that way because I'm not learning languages right now to like get to that goal. Like I'm not intentionally like going one by one. I'm not doing that. Um, I have coincidentally done that, like all the main languages that I have. So, um, besides German, have been in the top 10. German's not a top 10 language. Uh, yeah, it's not top 10 language. Very close though. But Hindi is on that list. And you would think for the person I am that I would be learning Hindi. Already plan to learn it. Want to learn Hindi. I do think that the language is really cool. I think the writing system, while maybe not the best, is definitely very ethereal in its own way. Maybe not like ethereal, but it kind of has its own intrigue to it. And I think India is very vast. It's a very expansive place with a lot of richness to it, which is also exactly why it kind of puts me off to like only like learn Hindi, because I'd have to commit a lot of time to learn Hindi, right? When I go there, and a lot of them speak English like pretty well. They speak English. Maybe would sometimes we prefer to speak English because a lot of people in India, just in daily life, when speaking to other people, mix a lot of Hindi with English anyway. But India, being so rich, has so many other languages as well that are equally as hard, if not harder, than Hindi. And it would be kind of conflicting to like for me because someone, you know, myself loving languages, it'd be hard. I would easily be distracted by these other languages, surrounded that would be surrounding me. And these languages like Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, freaking Malayalam. Oh my god, Malayalam. Probably harder than Mandarin. um, I would not be able to help to dabble in them. I would not be able to help myself in dabbling in those languages. Why do I sound sad? Why do I sound like I'm gonna cry? I'm not like that like emotional about it. It's just like Hindi, like out of like the top 10 languages spoken in the world, it's probably like the least one that I'm like dying to go out and learn. But I've definitely thought about it, and I will probably learn a little. I'll probably end up learning some of it. I'll probably end up going up. I already plan to learn. I can already see it happening. But for right now, where I'm in life, I only thinking of having a maybe, But we'll see. Now it's kind of funny Hindi being as big as it is, especially in comparison to the next language, Persian or Farsi. I personally prefer to call it Farsi, um, but I'll use the two terms interchangeably. Sorry if that gets you mad. I don't say either one for any political reasoning. I just say it because of what's been said to me and what I've heard. Yeah. So Farsi, Persian, I think it's a great language. I think it's a cool language. I do think it actually does sound beautiful. I think the country where it's spoken is like lit. Sucks that we have bad governmental ties. And America is not America's government with Iran's government or Iran's government is not. They're not on best terms. But the people, as far as I know, as far as I've experienced, pretty chill, pretty lit actually. Um, Pretty fed up too, both governments. Um, you know, but I won't speak on your standing if you are from Iran. But I just do think like the language is very beautiful and the country is beautiful, and I'd love to go there. And I definitely have to put in a would be cool. I think in other years I might have put it in a want to learn. Probably last year I probably put it in a want to learn, and I definitely do want to, but I do need to hold back because I know like when it comes to priorities and like languages I do want to learn, it is sadly on the lower list. But it's if I were to like go out and like learn a little bit, dabble a little bit in it, it definitely would be an example of a big passion project for me. I do find it very, very riveting the language. It would be definitely very riveting experience to go out and learn it. And also it'd be kind of good because it'd be a little bit of an introduction in learning Arabic, as although the languages are not similar in the slightest when it comes to how they're related grammatically, or when it comes to vocabulary, they are shared in the way that they are written, the writing system. So go figure, right? Like I could practice like reading, right? I love using like the script, flexing the script, and people think it's like Arabic, but then when they hear me, they can't even understand me because, well, guess what? It's actually Persian. It's actually Farsi, and it's super cool and it's super niche. So I'm probably gonna put in the would be cool. For Hebrew Semitic language, I remember earlier on, even before I started learning French, I thought it would be very cool to learn biblical Hebrew and just learn biblical Hebrew to understand, to read ancient texts such as uh, the Old Testament, um, Torah. And I still have a little bit of that fantasy, but honestly, I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's some gripe, but I just really don't have a big interest for Hebrew. I will say though that it is like the one that is the most on the edge to the maybe. Just because like yeah, there's historical like significance. Yeah, there it can be some benefit of learning it. Yeah, it's cool to see you speak it. But right now I'm just really not like, I'm really not feeling it. And no, this is not related at all to anything that's been happening recently. Any geopolitics is not related to that at all. It's just purely related to like the language and if I learn it, as well as if I think I'd be willing to invest in that, and like if I have a connection like with people and culture, and I don't really not much. Um, and again, that is not related to what has happened at all. It's just kind of where I'm at. You know, of course, I have a lot of interest in ancient histories, but we're strictly talking about modern Hebrew. And if I were to want to, learn biblical Hebrew, I'd probably end up learning a lot of modern Hebrew anyway. So it's just gonna go there for now. The next language is Italiano. Italiano. This is the most like this accent is how everyone speaks in Italy. Like it's not stereotypical at all. It's how people actually speak Italiano. No, I do a terrible accent. Yeah, I could put Italian in the already plan to learn. Maybe the want to learn, but I'll probably put in the already plan to learn. I kind of think of already plan to learn languages as languages that I know like for sure that in my lifetime, like yeah, like unless I die of a stroke tomorrow, I'm gonna learn Italian. Or like I'm gonna learn this language, and that too, that it will probably be in like the next few years, like the next coming years, like 2 3 years. Um, that like I'll learn or like I'll like go to and like know a little bit of, right? I should say 2 to 5 years, 1 to 5 years, obviously. 0 to 5 years, because I could put a language that I plan to learn tomorrow and I already plan to learn. Yeah, right. Languages that I'm sure that I'm going to learn, and then also thirdly, languages that have a strong that I have a strong like connection to, like emotionally, when it comes to like wanting to speak that language, get invested in that culture. And that third one is the only thing that could possibly bring Italian down to the want to learn. But just looking at my current life circumstance and a lot of opportunities that have been offered to me related to the Italian language, um, I think it just makes sense that I'm going to learn Italian. The more interesting question is how good will I be in Italian, and how far will I invest in Italian? Because, as I said, when I was speaking French, if you didn't catch on, well, that sucks. I'm just kidding. What I was saying in French basically was that like I'll learn a language to the extent of how much I want to actually speak the language and know. And so I'm not sure, if I would learn Italian, if I would only do it for like 3 months to a certain extent and be like, okay, I'm good, I'm fine. You know, Now, if I were to do that, of course, I would definitely need to like find ways to maintain it, because you do all that work and you will eventually lose it if you don't maintain it. You have to spend a significant amount more time to speak language, or learn the language, in order to not use it that much, but still able to like have the rest in your mind without having risk of it all fleeting away. So it is a little bit of a complicated situation, but I'm going to put it in our plan to learn. All right. 日本語 weeb language, a disgrace to humanity, a language that is only spoken to be nerds to be nerdy, to watch anime, to get into weird weeaboo culture, to flex and say that you can understand this, to try and show off and be extra performative. But really, everyone just thinks you're weird. And I, and I, and I'm all for that. I already plan to learn Japanese. I will learn Japanese. Dare I say I'll be fluent in Japanese. 日本語の勉強したいです。The last part is definitely false. I'm not learning Japanese, but I've always had an interest in Japanese. I'll put it above German. Because I kind of have to put it above German because, again, this is ranked from, great to least. So, for example, the no category, Armenian is the one out of all of them that I'm probably like the most like hard no on. I probably won't learn. And then Hebrew is like the most no, but I could. Same for here. Like I think like Italian's like yeah, I'll probably learn, but maybe want to learn German. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna learn German because I already studied it. In Japanese, it kind of has to be here because like in a sense like I'm already gaining knowledge in Japanese every day via learning Mandarin Chinese, via knowing this. Like if I can just find, I'm sure I can just find a character to prove my point right now. But if you don't know, while I'm not looking at you guys and looking at this, oh hey, here we go. Oh wait, but this is no. They put it in the Chinese, although it is an author name. Oh, it's even right there. Yeah, as you'll see here, this character here is used in Chinese, as well as these two characters are used in Chinese. These characters are also used. Author and illustrator in Japanese. They're the same. I'm sure there's more characters too that I could find. Like Bun. There's also a book here. Yep, run. Person. Right here, you have people, person. You also have it here. So you have characters that, are the same in both languages. Yeah, you have one. Of course, you have one. Because all numbers are also the same in both languages. To my understanding, I could be completely wrong. But if you know like how to count Chinese, in sense of being able to recognize the characters of like reading like 1, 2, 3, and being able to read the number 1, 2, you can read characters in Japanese. If you're able to look at a calendar date in Chinese and understand what it says, you can do the same in Japanese. And for most countries and people, to my understanding, and like proper names that are like super popular and well known, you can also do the same. Like Japan in Chinese is written the exact same in Japanese. So then what's the difference? Why not say like, okay, I'm just learning Japanese right now? Well, one, I'm not learning Japanese, I'm learning Chinese. And two, they're pronounced completely different, not mutually intelligible at all. Not only when spoken, but also like when reading. And I can be confused because I just showed you characters that are the exact same. Well, they're read differently. They are pronounced differently also. So when I read a character in Chinese, I know how to pronounce it. That does not mean that I can do the same in Japanese and also pronounce it. Now you might think, okay, well, I should, definitely learn these two languages in conjunction because, I'll get the same meaning, right? Like if this character means one thing in Chinese, it's always going to mean the same thing in Japanese for the same character. Not necessarily. A lot of things do hold similar meaning, but both of these languages compound words together. So you often have two characters put together to create a fuller meaning, and they often make different things in either languages. So they create a lot of misunderstandings. especially just when used in isolation. When put in big paragraphs, because you have more context, a lot more to work with, it is possible, and there have been tests. A famous YouTuber, Lang Focused, actually did a test on this to see if people who know Chinese can read Japanese and vice versa. And it was largely understood that with more context, they were able to understand the other language. But in isolation, definitely not, like just with like singular words and what they meant. No, not at all. And so Japanese definitely needs to be tackled on its own, especially because in Mandarin, when you read a character, for most characters, it just has one reading. So I look at a character and it just means one thing. I'll just give a visual example. These characters are also, well, this character and this character is also on that book, but this for example is da and xiao or xiao. I said that like a total foreigner, but I look at the character and I know how to read it. In Japanese, it's not the same. You can read a character and it can have at least two different readings. I think every character in Japanese has at least two different readings because it has a, original Japanese reading, and it has a reading that comes from Chinese that they heard and interpreted the sounds of and used their own phonology in order to replicate more than 1,000 years ago. So, and also depending on context, there can be more readings for a character. And I mean, I know like the averages that like a character can like be up to, not average, but like that's like ordinary for a character to have is 9 readings per character. But I think like there is a character out there that has like more than like 100 readings or something like that. Maybe that's not true, but the characters just have so many readings and they change like a lot on context. So you definitely do have to dig deeper in your Japanese. That is also why I do believe that it is harder than Mandarin. Um, I'm not going to get into that debate right now. It also goes without saying that if you are trying to learn Chinese and Japanese, back to what I was saying earlier about the simplified characters and traditional characters, if you really want to leverage your knowledge, you have to know traditional characters in Chinese because it is only the traditional characters in Chinese that are used in Japanese, bar a few. Um, because the Japanese, they took the Chinese writing system thousands of years ago, and that writing system is what we now know as traditional Chinese because it was used traditionally. And simplified Chinese was only invented a little over 70 years ago, so it wasn't alive back then. And Japanese has maintained the traditional characters. So, yeah. And also, not to mention that Japanese has 2 writing systems. Or, not, sorry, it has 3 writing systems and 2 syllabaries and kanji that just expand out forever. It's really hard. Um, but I want to learn Japanese because, again, just as Chinese did, gave me a huge childlike wonder when I first, looked at it, first started immersing myself in it. Growing up, I was not into anime. Sorry. But I was into manga, and I loved manga, and I loved the Japanese animation and how they told stories. And I found it super interesting. That's why it's a dream come true to have something like this in my pocket, as I love Death Note and I love other manga. And I am super, super, super glad to have found a lot of interest in the language and the culture. And I definitely am always fascinated by Japanese culture, and I'm always intrigued whenever it is indeed brought up and put into conversation. And so I definitely have a lot of anticipation to learn the language, and it's also great to think that I'm already like technically preparing myself for this very daunting language that's considered to be the hardest language to learn for English speakers by my own government. So it's pretty exciting and terrifying at the same time. But I definitely love to learn Japanese for reasons that stem from my childhood and my now contemporary goals that I just can't fully explain, at least not in this one sitting. Anyway, that long rant aside, we are now, I promise, going to speed things up. We're going to go on to Latvian and Lithuanian, two languages that are related, if I'm not mistaken. They're very cool. Pedro? Oh. They're very interesting. Pepe. Lang. But I don't have interest in learning them. Poor Armenia. Yeah, they're languages that I don't really have interest in. Now they're not cool countries or anything, but I do admit that I haven't really looked into the countries, looked into the language that much. So if I were to do more exploration, learn a bit more about it, maybe my mind could change. But everything I have done so far, I just don't feel I do not feel compelled. Now, this is a very interesting language to put on the list because there is no Indonesia here. And the reason I'm mentioning Indonesia is because in Indonesia, there's a language spoken that's Indonesian. That's a language that, if it was on this list, I would put in the want to learn. And Malaysia is very close to Indonesian, and some argue that it is the same language to Indonesian. And to be quite honest, they practically are. They're largely different in name, but there are differences. There definitely are differences, and so I'm debating whether or not to treat this as if this just was Indonesian, was of me learning both Indonesian and then Malay, or just Malay itself, which would range anywhere from maybe here to here, or just here. If I'm considering just Malay, and just like me thinking about the language Malay, Malaysian, I'm gonna put it in the would be cool. Because I would definitely love to speak this language. Not only because, if I do speak Indonesian, I could, get that polyglot number up and learn Malay in 1 week. But also, I love Malaysia. I think Malaysia is really cool. I'd love to go to Kuala Lumpur. I'd love to try the food. And I think the language also sounds pretty wacky too. I think it sounds very interesting. If you've never heard language before, definitely listen to it. I think it honestly, in a sense, somehow sounds like maybe just a little bit more vibrant than Indonesian somehow. And it might have more intrigue to it, just in that sense, because it's more niche, spoken in pretty interesting countries. But I would learn Indonesian first. So I'll put it in the would be cool. Mongolian throat singing language, Dune language, you could say. I would love to put this in the maybe because I would love to imagine myself like actually learning throat singing. And maybe one day I'll actually, dive into the multiple writing systems because this language is written in the Mongolian alphabet, which is insane. It is written in the script, I believe, and I think it's making its transition to the Latin script as well. Definitely look at the alphabets Mongolian is written in, especially its own native script, as it's really interesting. And I think it does sound really cool. It's really rare when people speak it. Cool ethnic relation. As cool, like, I think the people have a really cool history, is what I'm trying to say. Right now, I'm going to put it up there with Hebrew. Both barring that maybe in excitement, Mongolian a little bit more, but in practicality, Hebrew a little bit more. And that's for obvious reasons, Mongolian is not spoken, although it would be cool. I would kind of just be learning it for a little bit of a meme, unless like I actually genuinely feel compelled to learn it. Language of Morocco. Fairly interesting flag to put here. Never don't know this in Morocco. When I look at this, I think Moroccan Darija. The Arabic variety hash slash like just full on language of Morocco. And I do want to consider it just that, like the language of Morocco, because I do genuinely believe that Moroccan Darija, taken to its most extreme, is a different language than modern standard Arabic and the other dialects of Arabic spoken out there. You can do your own research of that, which I highly recommend you do if you're not already familiar. For the sake of this list, I'll consider this just Arabic because there's no other Arabic speaking country here. And I think it roughly stays at the very end of want to learn. Boarding would be cool. I think if I was just considering just Moroccan Darija, I'd probably put it in the would be cool because I would know the practicality, though I would want to put in the want to learn because I do find them super fascinating and cool. And I would love to learn Arabic, specifically the Egyptian dialect variety. And then if somehow I get really good at Egyptian, which I don't expect, then I'd be like, okay, it's time to learn Moroccan Darija. And I would do that because I love Morocco. I love the culture. I love the history, the people. I've repeated myself for the 67th time here. Um, but also I do think the language is very fascinating. It's a good reflection of like you know let's just say the history of the people there and the influences around them. And also I can say I speak a different language because I do generally consider Moroccan Darija a different language from Arabic. Just considering Arabic though, Arabic of course is language. It's spoken in the top 10 languages. Language is very hard to speak. I do consider it. I do think it is maybe just a smidge harder than Mandarin Chinese. Um, and I would really like to learn it, but I'm not as compelled to learn it as other languages. I think out of all these languages here, it's definitely the one that I'm the least compelled to learn. At some points, even less than Farsi. But I can't deny its influence. I can't deny how many people speak it. I can't deny that I get really, I get, I get put under a spell when I hear people speak it, especially right in front of me. I hear the way that they pronounce things. It's just extremely beautiful. But I also have to recognize, the difficulty of the language, and also that although I'd be extremely sad that I never, got the chance to learn Arabic, that I maybe wouldn't fully regret learning these languages first, or besides Arabic, I should say. I'll leave it at that because there's a lot I could say about Arabic. We're trying to get a move on, and we will indeed move on to the Nederlands and Econ Nederlands spread. I speak, if you don't know, I am American who has one of the most noteworthy accents of the Dutch language. I actually am quite known for having the best, one of the best accents of Dutch accents out there. So if you do speak Dutch, then wie kan Nederlands spreken? Wie kan Nederlands spreken? Lekker man. Wie kan Nederlands spreken? I'm of course kidding. I don't speak this language that well. Wie kan Nederlands spreken? Wie kan Nederlands spreken? I am not learning Dutch, if you can't tell. But this language also is on the bordering of want to learn and would be cool. Right now, I'm just going to put it in the want to learn, but I will say it is a language that I don't think about that much learning in the sense of how I sometimes think about like just learning Italian, German, definitely Danish, and especially Japanese. Dutch usually never goes that far, but I do envision myself, getting good at German and then wanting to learn Dutch because, of course, they're related languages, but also I think the connection it has with English is really interesting. As well as I love the countries where it's spoken. I really would love to go to Belgium. I almost had the chance to. I sadly did not get to go. And I had two chances actually. Sorry for a different day. And the Netherlands, bro. It's going underwater, and that would be like a real life Wind Waker for me. I would love to go there. Like it would just be insane. I'd get height mogged easily. There's so many people there that are really tall, that just will tower over me, bro. Like I'll just see a million Godzillas around me, but it has an insane Viking culture, which I'm really fond of. So I'd love to go to Dutch speaking areas, and explore the Netherlands because the Netherlands have some really cool parts, and of course Belgium as well. Belgium has some really interesting parts as well as other Dutch related languages that are spoken there. We're going to another Scandinavian Germanic language. It is Norwegian, Norwegian, Norsk. Is it jeg prater norsk? Jeg prater norsk. Yeah, I think this is a fair placement. About the same with Danish. I will want to learn. I could put it in the already plan to learn if I really wanted to, but then that would, I would be. I feel like I would have to demand myself to then put Danish into the already plan to learn as well because I kind of see them in conjunction, as well as with another Scandinavian language that we'll get to in a second, which shouldn't be that surprising. Norwegian, just have a love for Scandinavian culture. love for the language. Think language is cool. I didn't think that the language was as fascinating. I do think the language. I have more of an interest for language. Definitely a lot more than I did in the past. I definitely now do think that it is genuinely like really cool to hear people speak it, and it is very intriguing. It's kind of whimsical in a way. Not as much as Danish though. I can't lie. Danish. I think Danish like kind of like mocks Norwegian. Now this list isn't based on which language I think like is mogging the other. When it comes to practicality of other, I think Norwegian probably easily goes over Danish. But for personal preference, I'll keep it like that. And I definitely do have a lot of intrigue to learn Norwegian as well as Danish. We'll see which one I'll learn first, if I get to either, or if I'll just learn them in conjunction like a madman. But for now, we are going to kind of leave that conversation as we'll get back to it, and we're going to go into Urdu. And we're going to return to the conversation I had earlier about Hindi. And this is going to be insane, but low key. If you don't know, Hindi and Urdu are related languages. By many, again, they're considered similar languages, like the same language, but the differences in how they're written, again, like Persian. It's a language that's not related to Arabic. However, it is written differently. It is written in the Arabic script. And I think that alone changed it from being a category 3 / category 2 language to a category 4 / category 3 language of difficulty in terms of how hard it is to learn the language for an English speaker. And you can also do your own research of that if you haven't. I would really recommend it. But low key, it's crazy because Urdu definitely has a lot less speakers than Hindi, still a significant amount. Probably country Pakistan. Pakistan, number one, bro. That not a lot of people think about, but it's actually that is like really rich and honestly really important. And there's a lot of people from there, and it's kind of like it is a very important country, um, in this country. And honestly, yeah, like I think technically speaking, in reality, I'd probably like technically like beat on myself. Yeah, you bro, learn Hindi first. But the way I'm looking at it, bro, I love Urdu, and I just love like the script, and I love the people, and I love their style of speaking it as well. This isn't based on any political BS or anything. I just the way it is to me, and also the flag is pretty lit as well. Filipino, aka Asian Spanish. Heard all the time in Australia, and every time I heard it, I thought it was Spanish because so many words are for Spanish, and that's the thing that makes me makes me intrigued by the language and it kind of makes me go to the language when I learn it. It also makes you like it's really similar to Spanish. Like at a certain point, they're kind of just like code switching. They're just speaking. They'll be speaking Filipino or Tagalog if you would like, and then they just start speaking Spanish. What more happens is they speak Filipino and then they just start speaking English. They just code switch a lot, which I know that can be turned off for a lot of people. Me personally, though, it doesn't bother me too much. I would at a certain point, especially with the Spanish, then just consider it just like the way that they speak the language in general, the way they use the language, and I still find that very admirable. And I think the Philippines is a great country. I would definitely love to go there. I would be really saddened if I never get the chance to go there. And I think this is a language that, given more time, oh shoot, I think that this is language if given more time. I'm sorry. I think this is language if I'm given more time to go out there and learn languages and improve my craft, especially with Spanish or Romance languages in general, I should say. Because, as you know, languages related to Spanish, I would learn. I'm not like I learned Filipino. I learned Tagalog. I think it's a language that I'd love to learn. It's probably like right here with my. I think these all of these three are like kind of like tied together, and then it goes down. We have a pretty. I mean, besides this behemoth of a category, which we should honestly split up, I think this is a pretty well balanced list so far. These, of course, would preferably need to be stretched out, but of course, speaking languages takes time. When it comes to speaking languages, Polish is a very important one when it comes to my heritage because I am Polish, technically. My mom is African American and my dad is Polish American, and I'm mixed. I'm technically more African American. So technically speaking, I label myself as African American, but like truly, I am Polish. At least when it comes to modern day Poland, not to rant, but basically my great grandparents are like from like the area on the map where it could be Poland, it could be Ukraine, it could be these other, which sounds insane, um, or it could be these other Slavic countries. So honestly, the current war that's going on, I have a stake in this fight. Just kidding. But I am like Ukrainian, Polish. Technically, I'm Slavic basically, and my grandmother spoke this language, but only when she was young. And she grew up in America, and of course, when she kind of grew up and got more distant from her family, because of obviously growing up and stuff, having to live life, stopped using the language. It's hard to use the language to begin with. So imagine being away from your family. Not a lot of people speak Polish, and she ended up not speaking Polish, then not teaching it to my dad, who didn't teach it to me. And then I grew up for a long time not even knowing that I spoke Polish, that she spoke Polish. And then I now don't speak Polish, and she also does not speak Polish. None of us really speak Polish, but she knows a little bit though. When we give her conversations, when we like, when I turn on a video for her and it's in Polish and she reads, she can pick out a few things and she remembers things, and it's a very invigorating experience. It's really nice to see. It just sucks that she's bad with technology, so she can't really use YouTube. Sorry, Grandma, love you. But she can definitely remember it, and if given time, I feel like she could definitely her Polish it could reemerge. I'd like to put it in the would be cool. I think a part of me does want to put in the want to learn, especially for that connection I have. And also, I do think the language is genuinely like really interesting. There was a point where like for like 2 days, like I was like kind of like testing out what it would be like to learn Polish, and I was like learning some greetings, learning the pronouns, um, and yeah, I think it's very funny. I think the language is very funny, is what I have to say. I honestly would realistically probably just put it in a maybe. So I'm gonna put at the edge of the would be cool tier. Probably here with Czech as well. Just because it's Czech, I feel like Czech, honestly, I think like I'm kind of more like wowed by the Czech language than Polish, which would shock a lot of people. But Polish kind of just has like more of like a presence over Czech. But I digress. Portuguese. Oh my god. Portuguese. This language. This language. This language. Spoken in Portugal. Spoken in Brazil. And hopefully it's spoken in my heart. Because I love this language. This type of German. I think when it comes like in a perfect world of Portuguese, if I had everything my way, like it would be here, and like I wouldn't like learn Italian first. But looking how my life is going, I'm probably just so it's clear, I'm probably gonna end up learning some Italian before my Portuguese, before I ever learn Portuguese. But I do plan to learn both, and I definitely plan to learn Portuguese. And I love the language. I'm always floored by the language every time I hear it. I find it so cool, especially the Brazilian dialect. I love how it's spoken in Brazil. No disrespect to anyone in Portugal. I also think the Mozambican dialect is also freaking lit, bro. And the Angolan variety, bro. Oh my god, bro, insane. Um, crazy flags, by the way. And yeah, It's just I can't say more. I will literally rant for like another 20 minutes, bro. Bolsonaro muito gostoso, to steal the line from Joshua. It's really it's really insane. Now Romanian also, I swear I share similar sentiments to um, the titular language learner language sim, that I feel like I would have at this point dabbled a little bit more Romanian than I have, or more so, I feel like that in a few years I should dabble in Romanian, but I'm likely not to. Which really saddens me because on this channel I've had a long running joke with Romanian, which is not a joke by the way. And I am genuinely intrigued by this language, but it has been here in my mind of like I want to learn it. Maybe it's not exactly a plan to learn, but I definitely want to learn it, and I want to like just like dive into Romanian, you know, and be that guy who goes out and learns Romanian. I think the country is really cool, and I do want to go there. But I think over time it has just become like a maybe we'll be there one day, you know, and maybe that's come over time of me learning a bit more about like the cases and being kind of like that's super cool, but also heck no, I don't want to do that. And I was thinking about the practicality, so I definitely have to reevaluate my relationship with Romania. But I feel like inevitably, in a perfect world, if I do end up learning these languages to somehow a semi decent level, I definitely put Romanian there. When it comes to learning languages in a semi decent level, I would be extremely, extremely, extremely like grateful to even speak Russian, to even like a like baby's level, because this grammar really hard, vocabulary, and the cases, bro. Well, that's exactly the reason why I am captivated by this language. I love the language. I love the way it's spoken, and I love the way it speaks to me. And every time I hear someone, especially someone who's learned the language or is learning the language, I'm just always like, I feel so proud of them, and I feel so happy, and I'm just like, wow, like you really are like you are like that guy. You're like that person who like actually like like you're probably not only like you're probably like pretty like mentally strong to like like seriously like be here learning Russian, but you're also like I think you're just like really cool for learning Russian because you're someone who speaks Russian, like that has so much aura on it. And I think Russian for me is a language that I kind of think of as if it's an arty plan to learn, but in reality it might be more it might be more intelligent of me to put it in the want to learn, just because it is a language that not only takes a lot of time, but when it comes to sorting my languages out and language opportunity, although Russian does give a lot of opportunity, just because languages end up, connecting to each other in very, in very peculiar ways. It just so happens that I might be more likely to learn a language that only has 6 million speakers and is only really predominantly spoken in one place on Earth, and a language spoken by close to 300 million, maybe more, speakers, and spoken across 20 countries on Earth. Um, I think 19 actually. I think it's just not 20. I actually don't think it's 20. Uh, but yeah, I think I will indeed put it in the want to learn. But I definitely do feel myself learning Russian. And if and when Russian is on Migaku, because I know it's in the beta, I just won't be able to help myself, and I will open it and I'll probably just go crazy and just mine like tons of words for Russian. But yeah, I love the language, and of course, I've already learned a little bit of Russian. Never seriously studied it. There's times where like I've done some challenges or whatnot with the language, see how much I can do with it. But it's just along the lines of like, oh, okay, learn the alphabet, learn how to say like hello, goodbye, and all that language has left me. Serbian, finally, to complete the tale of Croatian, Serbian, Bosnian, North Macedonian. And even Montenegrin. This language is also maybe. I'm also kind of compelled to put Serbian in the would be cool, but if I do so, then I'll put Croatian as well in the would be cool. Because they're languages that if I were to learn, I would either just literally learn it as Serbo-Croatian, or just like, it'll show me how it's said in Croatian, so how it's said in Serbian, and I'll internalize the two, and I'll just learn it like that. That's probably how I would do it. Or I would just focus on one like language. I would focus on one language from a certain country, learn a little bit of the other one, and then eventually, when I'm comfortable in the other one, I'll switch to the other one. Like I don't see myself not doing that. Like if I were to learn Croatian, I'll definitely make sure I get good at Croatian, take some time, then delve right into Serbian. You know, especially for the listening, right? Get good at that. Boom. If I learn Serbian first, I'll definitely get into Serbian, be super fascinated by the people, the country, then do the exact same thing for Croatian, right? When it comes to Slovak, is it? Oh shoot, I forget. Is it Czech and Slovak that are similar, or Czech and Slovenian? I believe it's Czech and Slovak that are similar. And then for that, it's a language that would be cool because it's like, okay, if I learn Czech, I'm gonna like put all that knowledge to Slovak, right? But I'm just gonna put it in the maybe as well, as long as these other Slavic languages, just a language that its fate is dependent on the other languages that I would learn. And also, I have to admit, I don't know that much about Slovak as well. And Slovenian, I also have to admit that it's probably a language that I could also get up there that I also find interesting. And maybe it's a language that by next year it's gonna be here, but it could be all the way up here because I feel like Slovenian has that aura in it. I'm gonna put it, you know, maybe in the note just because I don't really have like any connection with it. But I kind of feel bad. Like all the other song languages are up here, and like I feel like there is a small chance. We'll see. We'll come back to it. I need more time to think on it. All right. But I definitely need more time to think about this flag. And the reason is because this is the flag of South Africa. Of course, it's a very controversial flag. Maybe not super controversial. But also, because South Africa is a country with so much linguistic diversity, it's hard to say what language this is. Is it Zulu? Is it Afrikaans? Is it Xhosa? 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 Is it Xhosa? Xhosa? Is it Xhosa? Kosa? Is it Zulu, Afrikaans, Xhosa? Any other languages that are spoken in South Africa? I don't know. I kind of want to treat this as if it's Afrikaans because that's like the language that like has. I don't know. I think Zulu is a language that like might like fully first form to my mind because I when I think of South Africa and like language specifically of South Africa and like how diverse it is, like the first one that comes to mind is Zulu and how cool it is. But when I think about like what would probably like reach me first and presents itself to me, I think of Afrikaans. So I'm going to treat this as Afrikaans. I'm sure if it was Zulu, it'd be similar. I'm going to put it in the would be cool. I definitely do want to put it in the want to learn though, especially up there with Dutch because honestly, if I learn Dutch, bro, I'm honestly just going to learn Afrikaans. It's literally just goofy Dutch. It's honestly niche, nerdy, goofy Dutch, and it's looking in kind of its own ways better than Dutch, bro. And also, I just love to go to Johannesburg and just the other places in South Africa and use the language. Honestly, with that being said, mm, I'm gonna put it's kind of the same thing with Romanian for me. We'll see how its fate ends up, where how its destiny is written based off the other languages around it. But it is making its way up here. I don't know why I say it's making its way up here because honestly, if anything, it's fallen. If anything, the language has fallen. I'm sure it was up. It was more up last year. For Korean, for South Korean, sadly no North Korean here. I think it's also a language that I'll put in the would be cool, but surprisingly somehow, this is cool. Wait, oh my gosh, it's like elongated. Surprisingly, South Korean, or just Korean, I should say, or Ojino Game language has made its way, touching the want to learn. And if anything in my heart, in the way I think about language and like the languages I'm going to learn, I think it should be there in the want to learn. I think it should be there in the want to learn. Like, it's just like a language that over time, especially after starting learning Mandarin Chinese, it's just like, you definitely feel its presence. You definitely feel its influence. You definitely feel like the amount of Korean speakers that are out there in the world and Korean culture and how, influential it is and how popular it is. And there's not even as many, although very close. Like, I think it's just only a million difference. There's not even as many Korean speakers as Cantonese or Cantonese speakers, you know? And definitely not as many as Japanese speakers, and by far not as many as Chinese speakers, right? I mean, maybe if we include the North Korean speakers, we put that number goes up a bit, but they're going to speak a whole another language in probably another couple hundred years. So yeah, I kind of just envision myself like learning the alphabet, learning how to read, and then start like using the language just like bit by bit, like a baby, and then like 10 years, like okay, I'll learn Korean now. I've done Mandarin, I've done some Japanese. I'm gonna learn Korean. So you know what? I'm gonna leave it there in the want to learn. I am gonna leave it there because I do feel like a big connection with Korean, or that I felt a big connection with Korean over time, and a sense of me actually genuinely wanting to learn it. And I do think, especially compared to Farsi, because I think of this as going one by one. I think if I had to choose, like, yes, I'd be super saddened, but I'm gonna choose Korean. I think I'm gonna choose Korean. Spanish. Now, when it comes to choosing languages, you don't really have a choice with Spanish. I believe that in some places, Spanish is your only choice when it comes to learning language. Because here in America, we have to choose a language to learn. And there's usually only two options. Dos opciones. There's it's el español or it's el francés. Um, and at both of my high schools, it was only French and Spanish. And I ended up going to a private school, and still, even at a private school, it was just French and Spanish. So Spanish was very prevalent en los Estados Unidos. Hay muchos hispanohablantes. Acerca de yo, acerca de yo, mi país, mi ciudad, y el idioma es muy interesante. When it comes to Spanish, I think a lot of people kind of like feel like they should learn it and want to learn it, but they end up like not really like learning it. Like there's some people who like want to learn other languages, like oh I want to learn Japanese or I want to learn like Korean, but because Japanese is just so spoken in America, like okay I'll speak Spanish, even if they don't fully want to. And some of them they might want to, but it might not be as strong as their of them wanting to learn Japanese, just because they do definitely feel the presence of Japanese there. Sorry, they definitely feel the presence of Spanish there and just all the speakers that are around them, right? And that is a little saddening to me because because like a language is like spoken everywhere doesn't mean that should like take away your passion to learn a different language. Kind of like what English does. But with that being said, lo aprendí el español, hablo un poco de español, pero no sé si puedo decir que hablo el idioma español. If you haven't noticed somehow, I have to change my mind into Spanish. I'm so sorry. Lo siento, pero hablo con el acento de España, el acento de Madrid. Espero que hablo con el acento de Madrid. Que no hablo con el acento mexicano. y no creo que mi acento es perfecto, no es. Pero no creo que hablo con un acento, americano. Um, de hecho, cuando comencé a aprender el idioma español, uh, hablé, lo hablé con un acento francés, un acento de Francia, y um, creo que la razón por la que es que um, terminé, mm, terminé aprender los básicos de francés, del um, del idioma francés, y los idiomas son muy similares, peleados, no sé la palabra, pero los idiomas son muy similares y sí, creo que that just essentially effed with my head. As you can tell, I'm struggling a bit to use the language. This is why I'm a little conflicted right now. Es que cuando digo que yo hablo un idioma, o ya lo hablo, no necesito tener completamente, no necesito tener completamente seguro, pero necesito estar, tener suficiente confianza. No necesito, estoy completamente seguro, pero necesito tener suficiente confianza. Y en francés lo tengo. En español, más o menos lo tengo. Especialmente cuando necesito hablar con los hispanohablantes en mi país acerca de yo, uh, en mi ciudad, en mi universidad, hay mucha gente que lo hable y lo practico con ellos y ellas. Pero cuando yo pienso que que cuando pienso que maybe, que está aprendiendo español, si yo digo estoy aprendiendo español, no tengo confianza. ¿Y por qué no? Porque no solo no yo estoy estudiando español, porque no estoy estudiando español, no estoy estudiando español en este momento. Estudié el idioma el año pasado en el verano, pero no estoy aprendiéndolo también. No estoy mirando los vídeos y leyendo los libros en español, y sí necesito hacerlo. Pero es que simplemente lo hablo cuando necesito y lo uso cuando necesito o cuando quiero. Y a veces me hablo en español y más, más que esa, lo hablo con los trabajadores en los Estados Unidos. Este día lo usé con los trabajadores en mi café, en mi cafetería, en mi universidad. Y a veces, cuando yo encontrar un amigo o amiga que hable, que hable el idioma, no uso inglés, uso español. Prefiero usar el idioma español. No sé por qué, pero creo que sí, creo que me encanta hablar español con los hispanohablantes o personas que puedan hablarlo y no inglés. Solo si pueden, solo si pueden usarlo también. Porque a veces a veces no, mm, la gente no es acostumbrado a usarlo. ¿Sí? Entonces, voy a elegir el already speak, pero es con un poco asterix. Pero no me siento que estoy mintiendo. Is that even the right word? Lying. Creo que puedo decir que sí, yo hablo español y puedo usarlo, porque yo uso el idioma. Yo uso el idioma con la gente y sí, hago muchos errores. Pero me encanta el idioma, me encanta la gente. Probablemente voy a continuar a aprenderlo un día, seriosamente estudiarlo. La razón por la que no estoy estudiando español, no estoy mirando los videos en español, es que creo que si una persona dice que no tengo tiempo para aprender un idioma, pienso que es bullshit. Que sí puedes aprender un idioma, probablemente tú tienes tiempo, tienes mucho tiempo. Pero yo, en realidad, sí, yo tengo tiempo, pero mi tiempo libre lo uso por el chino mandarín. Yo lo uso, oh my God, lo uso por el chino mandarín y veo los vídeos en chino mandarín y leo mucho en chino mandarín. Entonces, seriosamente necesito encontrar tiempo uh, para leer en español, para mantener mi español. Pero también creo que uh, yo mantengo mi español con los trabajadores y algunos profesores aquí en mi universidad. So as you can tell, my Spanish no es de puta madre. Pero I'm honestly quite surprised that I'm even like okay at Spanish anyway, because it was a very rocky experience, to say the least. Still fun, but I started in November and December of 2024, November and December of 2024. Then like I stopped until after my birthday in Abril and April, and then I learned April, May, June because I was in Madrid, and then a little bit in July. You know, I kind of was still speaking because I was with a friend who spoke Castellano, so I used some, but it was definitely diminishing. So what? That's like I don't know, 6 months, and then like August comes around, and I'm using it like when school starts around at the end of August. Like I'm using it with a lot of new people I'm interacting with, but slowly. I'm not really using it anymore. So I'd say I only like actually like studied it for a good 5.5 months, and the rest that I've kind of gained over time has been me like listening to it whenever I hear it spoken to me, picking up on things I haven't learned before, letting it settle in my brain, and then using it as best as I can, even if it's not that good. So I will put it in here, but obviously I'm going to put less in French because, well, mi francés es mejor que mi español. Mi español. So, and Spanish is an easier language than French. So, I don't know. Maybe. Next is Swedish. I think I actually did good with time, and then I just like spoke in Spanish for like ever, which I didn't expect. Especially claiming to say that I don't speak Spanish that well. I definitely spoke way longer than I needed to then. Uh, but Swedish, unsurprisingly, will join Brothers. I'm going in the nope category. I hate Swedish. Um, this is in large part due to my fury with PewDiePie. No, I'm just joking. Of course, it's going to go up here. Where it's placed, honestly, I'm not really sure. But also, I'm not even sure if it really matters at this point because I kind of all see these as a big blob that are together that like anything could really happen. I think out of practicality, I mean, obviously the pure switch is the most. Out of if maybe of interest of what I would like in a perfect world, probably be like this. It'd probably be this. In terms of what's actually gonna happen or what should happen, it's probably technically this as well with these kind of two together and starting with Norwegian. It's a whole kind of like process of like how you would like kind of maximize your learning of the Scandinavian languages. But I'm also not really thinking about that. I'm just thinking of them as languages. And yeah, I think Swedish definitely put it here. Maybe I could also put in the already plan to learn, but again, its brothers would join it, and I'm completely fine with just leaving it right there. So yeah, nothing more to be said. I think it's really cool. I think it's really a little bit exaggerated when it's spoken. It's very distinct, and I think that's really interesting. Thai is also really interesting. It's a very aesthetic language. There's this whole like different aspect of like language learning on YouTube that's like kind of like the type of language videos that are like prioritize like how to study a language in the sense of like making it look super aesthetic when it comes to like writing it on paper and like having all your grammar notes. Thai is like your essential language for that because it's like maybe a little bit more than um like a Mandarin Chinese or a Japanese, uh because like the writing system is just so different. It's so cool if someone can have cool writing with that. um so there's a lot of people who include Thai with it, and a lot of people who are into Thai dramas. They're the type of I'm not like other girls type learners, but Thai is really cool, and I do think that is a really interesting, admittedly choppyish language, but I really do enjoy it. I really do love it. I am tempted to put in the would be cool. It's probably most likely a maybe, but every day passes, the more that Thai spice enters my soul. So I'm gonna put it in the would be cool. You get to Turkish. Turkish is sadly kind of in the opposite. I was very intrigued by Turkish and the way that the language worked as well. Um, Captivated me as well. It was something I had never really seen before, although multiple languages do it. So like alternative kind of puts words together. With that being said, though, over time I've kind of lost a love for the first language. I do have a friend. I know someone who speaks for. She speaks really good French as well. Who's a native Turkish speaker. I embarrassingly used some Turkish with her. She was very flattered. I also knew that I sounded like dog. Sounded terrible. And I'll just put in the maybe probably to her displeasure. Just because I'm not fully there with Turkish anymore. I love Istanbul. I would love to go to Istanbul. I'd love to go to Turkey as well, or Turkey. I do think it is really fascinating, especially the nationalist culture, bro. I just have to say it's wow. It's remarkable to say the least. Um, but at this point, it's only maybe. I would probably say it's with Hindi, the one that's with Hindi and the one that's on maybe kind of to the would be cool. But I think over time, I definitely see it even going to here. Maybe I even could put it to there, especially given the fact that it doesn't really have like languages that are like close to it that lead into it. Of course, you have the aforementioned Azerbaijani, but there's so little speakers of that language, right? So, but I do think they are like pretty real, like surprisingly similar languages that you probably understand pretty well. But I need more time definitely to think about Turkish language. Next is Ukrainian. Um, Anything I'm about to say is not related to any of the political stuff that's happening with Ukraine, but I don't care about Ukraine at all. I'm just kidding. Uh, I actually do really want to put in the want to learn. I will put it in the would be cool because I do genuinely have a big, big, big fascination with Ukrainian. Again, not at all to do with anything that's been going on or me trying to like, get brownie points or anything. I just do genuinely just remember like one day going out and learning just a little bit of Ukrainian. and genuinely being like, wow, like this really would be a big rabbit hole to go down. And this really would be like just me like opening up my doors even more so and committing to like a language like a beast of a language like Ukrainian. I think it is harder than Russian. But also it could be very smart to learn Ukrainian because a lot of vocabulary, there's a lot of Slavic languages that share its vocabulary with Ukrainian, so it's honestly very smart to learn Ukrainian as well. But also not to say like I would love to go to Ukraine, of course, in relation to politics. I would love, of course, to get my sympathies and help people out there. However, I do just think like in general, the places that have survived in Ukraine that are still alive and well, do I do really think it has a vibe. I would love to go to some places in Ukraine and just like bike, just like get on a motorcycle and just like go on a highway. Like it sounds very weird, but I would just love to go on a highway and then just like get off the highway and like just go to like a nearby like park and like just like hang out there because it seems super cool to me. I've seen videos of people doing it. Um, yeah, I think it is really vibey. Um, and I would really like genuinely have a fascination to learn Ukrainian. And part of me wants to put in the want to learn. But again, next is English. I mean, like British. I think the only word I know in that language is Guardian Leviosa. Or I don't know. I need a better accent. Guardian Leviosa. Guardian Leviosa. Yeah, no, I'm intentionally not doing a British accent, and I do not speak British, but I do speak English, and it's right here because it's the best language to speak. I mean, you know, could be still surprising because I actually did struggle a lot with English growing up. Although I am a native English speaker, I had a lot of difficulties learning the language growing up, um, and I wasn't really able to speak it that well until I was 12, which you might say is normal. But I mean, like, what, like, a maybe let's say like an 8-year-old should know in English or 7 years should know in English, I kind of knew till I was 12. So I was a little bit behind. And it was hard for me to like kind of grasp concepts. But somehow I, was like, I want to read books. And I sucked at reading. And then I started reading and I started writing in English because it was the only language I knew. And I don't know, I guess something changed. And then I started debating in English because it's the only language I spoke, but I got really into debates and philosophy. And then somehow people started coming to me for English advice. So it's kind of crazy how things turn out in life. I definitely would not call myself an esteemed connoisseur of the English language, um, particularly not as much as I should be, given the fact that I am an author. But just how it is. And last but not least, Vietnamese. And Vietnamese is a very interesting one. A very, I don't know, it's a very peculiar language to end this whole journey. And it's kind of crazy that's already over. And we're ending it with Vietnamese, a language that probably in the past that I didn't give so much. I didn't really bat too much of an eye to. But now I'm definitely like also not batting too much of an eye to, but it's kind of coming for me. And that's simply just because it's possible that I could like use this language, whether or not that's like interacting with people who speak the language, doing things to help people speak the language, or going to the country. And those are very like those things are all very specific to my life. I'd have to probably explain a different video. But like just to summarize, like there's so many people who speak Vietnamese at my college, and I have a lot of opportunity not only speak the language, but just because I'm in a particular position to like possibly help um, people learn more languages by possibly like helping to get more languages taught here at the school, or people get into them. And because there's a huge Vietnamese population, they could connect with their heritage and speak the language. But I am really happy to say that there are a lot of people here who are Vietnamese and they do speak Vietnamese. It is really nice to hear that they are keeping their language. So I'm between a would be cool and a maybe, but I will say that if you are a language learner and you want to get into Asian languages, you're not sure where to start, and maybe you're intimidated by the Mandarin, especially like Japanese. I think Vietnamese honestly is probably the greatest starting point because it's written all in the American alphabet, the Latin alphabet. And it's I didn't even say American alphabet to like steal that from language sim. I just like said it because that's just what came to my mind. The Latin alphabet to displease language sim, and its tones are marked on it. So in like Mandarin Chinese, you have to have the pinyin to look at its tones, but in formal writing, it's all written in characters. You can't see any tones. Japanese, of course, it has pitch accent. Can't see pitch accent. In Korean, it has vowel shift, which you should be able to pick up on vowel shift, but of course, it's very hard to do. And of course, it's not marked, obviously. But Vietnamese has all its tones marked. And I'm sure it has its own little nuances and quirkiness to it, especially with the dialects in Vietnam. But Vietnamese, I think it's a great starting point. It's just for me personally, I'm not sure. My only like the only thing that's like biting at me is like, would I put Vietnamese up with Thai, or would I bring Thai down and have them both in the maybe? I do both think that they would be cool to learn, and I would like to know both of them. And I really do want to go to Hanoi. I probably used the wrong tone. Toi il Vietnam, but I might just like have it right here. Okay, it's been nearly 2 hours and 30 minutes. We're going to end the stream. But before doing that, we're going to go one by one. We're going to go through this list of languages. All 46. I can't believe I've done it again. Kind of crazy. I didn't think it would turn out like this. Also, this is kind of crazy as well. I actually feel like maybe I should I put another language in the morning? Because I think last year maybe there was 3 or 2. Definitely the first year I did this was only one language. That's why that was French. I could also compare the other language tier lists I've done in the past. Maybe I could also reconstruct them. That would be really fun. Like I could remake the list as well and compare them. I think that'd be really fun to do and see where I've gone. See how much has changed. But yeah. Yeah, let's go one by one. At the bottom is Armenian. Sorry. Then we have Lithuanian, Latvian. I personally just don't have any interest in these languages right now, as well as Albanian and Azerbaijani, although I find them very interesting. Estonian, Basque, Georgian, and Finnish. Very interesting features, grammatical features to me, and very interesting historical intrigue. But again, I'm not interested in learning them. Hungarian, by all means, probably out of all languages on this list, is the most grammatically extreme, but I also do not have any interest. Slovenian, um, I'm going to keep Slovenian in the nope. I want to put in the maybe, but it's the one that I would just need to. I need to find out more about the language. Mongolian, I think it definitely would be cool, but being serious and actually like looking at stuff right now is in the no interest, but it could definitely go up, and I honestly would not be surprised. Hebrew, maybe I would be a little surprised if it went up, but not so much as I know that I have a fascination for biblical Hebrew and ancient histories. But with the modern language, I'm not that captivated. When it comes to Slovak, Belarusian, and Bosnian or Slavic languages, they're like the back burners of Slavic languages, even if they are some of the most interesting. Icelandic, very interesting Germanic language, really cool, but I likely won't speak it. Same as Bulgarian, but it's possible that I could go out and learn a little bit, as well as Turkish. and some other Slavic languages, Croatian, Serbian. When it comes to Hindi, a really big language that's spoken, I definitely need more time to think about, what I would do with this language, how I would approach it, and how I would approach my India. And right now, I think I have to leave it at the maybe. I think I have to leave it at the maybe. It's sort of tied with Vietnamese, but I'll just leave Vietnamese there at the top of maybe. Touching the would be cool, but it would definitely be very cool, especially as it is one of the easier Asian languages out there, although still being extremely hard. And I think it is a great introduction for anyone who wants to get in them. Thai, as well, is technically easier than some other Asian languages, but definitely have to be hard with those tones as they are not marked. The writing system will kill you, but I heard that the spoken language, while it can be very fast at times, um, it's not that hard. Very exhilarating. Polish and Czech are Slavic languages that I'm very fascinated by, that I have strange connections to, and that I would love to see higher. But I have to be honest with myself and keep them here. Greek, same. I'd love to see it higher as well, but I'm just being honest with myself, and I definitely can see it going up, but I could also see it going down if I don't, you know, dabble in it at all or feel like I'll actually get into it. Urdu, right now, I'm just completely perplexed by Urdu, but maybe that's not the right word to use. I'm more so awed by the language, awed by it, and I really think it is really fascinating. It is really an anomaly, but in its best way possible. Cantonese, I think is a language that could definitely go up as well. I definitely find it very interesting. I definitely love it for its own way. I love the way that's spoken, especially when compared to Mandarin. It just sounds, I don't want to say goofy, but it's just like, it sounds really fun as well. It just sounds really fun. But I'll put in the would be cool because it's hard for me to say that I want to learn it. I do want to learn it, but compared to the other languages, it's hard for me to say that. I think the language that's kind of like that would make it gravitate toward the want to learn is Korean, because sometimes I kind of like juggle the two in my mind and think about the practicality of like if I like which one of those would I choose to learn. I think that this is a fair placement. Tagalog, I'll also leave there, but I could definitely see it going up because in my heart I would love to explore more of this language. Malay, or Malaysian. If Indonesian was here, we'd have a bit more context, but I think it would definitely be cool to speak this language. And I would love to see a life where I do speak this language, and you all as well. Romanian, again, the same thing. I'd love to see a life where I speak this language, but right now I have to reevaluate my feelings. Wow, it sounds very emotional. Romanian, and right now I think we're just gonna leave it, and the would be cool. I don't. I feel like I would be being a little dishonest. So if someone want to learn, Ukrainian, I'm not sure if it would be as dishonest if I was to put it in the want to learn, but it wouldn't feel as realistic to me. Afrikaans, maybe just a little bit more realistic, but again, not enough to put it in the want to learn. And Farsi, definitely at the peak of the would be cool. And it is definitely fighting for the want to learn. Given more time, given the more languages that I do learn or get, you know, decent at, and that I dabble in, I definitely see Farsi coming up and being in the want to learn and trying to make its way into my repertoire, as I would love to explore this very fascinating, beautiful language. It could definitely be right up there with Arabic. I could even learn it before Arabic. Now finally go into the actual languages. You could divide this in between like the languages that are like more so just like possibilities, but like more faint possibilities. I would love to learn, but it's not to be harsh, more so like fantasy. These languages, while still likely being a fantasy, are more like the languages that like are actually like that are actually present, likely to be more present in my life, and it comes to me wanting to learn. So these are like the actual like languages of big priority. So we've kind of crossed that threshold, which Farsi sadly missed out on. With South Korean, or just Korean in general, I think it has just barely crossed that threshold for me, and it's made its way into my heart. It'll be no language that I'd love to explore. I'd love to learn a little bit of. I'd love to speak, I love to go to the country as well, and I do genuinely have a fascination with how it's spoken, and how Korean people live, and interact with people who are Korean as well, as well as the big influence that not only the language but the culture, specifically K-pop, has had on the modern world. Dutch, as well, is a language that I could see going down, but I could as well see going up, depending on its harder older brother, German, and wherever that goes in my life. But right now, it is in a want to learn. Maybe it could be less in Korean, but I think them being together, I think it makes more sense. I think this makes sense. Moroccan Darija um, would probably be in like a would be cool, um, but I want it to be in a want to learn. But because we're considering this Arabic, I'm going to keep it in the want to learn. A piece of me does consider it a excuse me. It doesn't need consider it a already plan to learn, because I kind of just like think to myself like, how's there any way like I'm gonna go like the next 10 years of my life not knowing a smidge of Arabic, right? Like I'm gonna speak Arabic eventually, but maybe that is a good argument. Maybe I could already plan to learn. But it's also I also think the already plan to learn is like how well prepared I feel to learn it, how like if I'm ready to launch myself at it, and I'm not quite there yet with Arabic, as well as Catalan. Catalan, I used to be. I was like really like I wanted to commit to Catalan, but I also saw the issues of like I didn't want to confuse it with Spanish, and as you can tell, my Spanish is not the best as is. And also, there is a sort of a resource issue with Catalan as well, but there's definitely been more resources over time, and I'm definitely glad to see that happen. And I would be more than happy to dive into the language. Russian as well is a language that I'm probably going to dive into. Could also, I mean, it could technically be up here, but I think it being behind all the Scandinavian languages is equal parts very funny, but also equal parts like reflective of what's likely to happen in my life. Despite it being such a grand language, I think I also just do see myself tackling these ones first, not only for preparation for Russian, but also just because I am fascinated by those languages. But that is not to say that Russian does have a big place. Does have a big spot in my heart. I do find it very beautiful. I find it does have probably some of the biggest aura like you could ever get from a language. And whenever I hear someone speak Russian, or I'm around someone they say they speak Russian, I just can't help but try and like like just start speaking with them, and saying some Russian phrases that I know. No, I don't. I do not curse at them, but um, yeah, it's a language that I am excited to hopefully learn soon. And I definitely see myself planning to learn as well as these ones. The fact is like the question is, we live in a world where either the pages read like this, or the pages read like this. Because they would have to go together. I'm not sure how I would feel about this. I mean, maybe, and I mean that kind of looks clean, low key. It's just hard because, in a sense, like I feel like I already do plan to learn Danish. Like I'm going to learn Danish, Norwegian, Swedish, like kind of equal parts. Maybe a little bit more Norwegian, even though I would love to do Swedish. I think Norwegian just makes sense for me. Me being the language learner I am, like I would learn like probably how to like at least read in Norwegian to like an upper beginner level, and then dive into the other ones. Um, but I'm not doing that just because it's the smart cheat code way to do it. I actually do just like love the way that the language is and looks. but then I can't put that in the already plan to learn. It'd be more likely that I would do it like this, but it's hard to do that, especially given the fact that it's fully possible that I'll learn these before this one. Though that's to say that this cap with any of these languages, I think this is fine. Finally, we're up to the already plan to learn, and I probably have Italian, Portuguese, who feel kind of isolated, feel kind of alone. Like they're Scandinavian brothers. It does make sense that they're with them, but I've already explained my reasons why for keeping them here. It is possible that again I could have Norwegian learn before either of these two, especially given the fact that I'm very cautious of mixing my Romance languages. But I just know for sure that if not if not this, then at least this, right? But also given reasons I've already stated about how I'm probably am going to learn Italian. I mean, they have to be up here. In a way, like it's kind of like this because I've like, I mean, not really, because like Spanish has led me to be able to read these a little bit, and same with Mandarin. But I can't really say that because then Cantonese would be up here, and German would be up here because I've learned a little bit of German. But I can't say I'm learning it because it's the active study of it. And speaking about German, yeah, I'm gonna learn German. Like I could technically put it in the want to learn, but I know that even if like it's gonna be a couple years, these languages will go up. I know for a fact that I'm going to delve into German. Like there is no disputing that. And like it's just like with Norwegian, Swedish, like yeah, I feel like I am gonna do it, but it's like Swedish, yeah, Norwegian, yeah, 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 and Danish is like yeah, mostly, maybe. I love Denmark, but it's also hard to learn the language. But German, it's all like yeah, like, I'm gonna learn it. Japanese, also the same. Beforehand, maybe it wasn't so much, but you know, I'm gonna learn Japanese. I will learn it. It will be learned. I need to become a weeb before I die. Chinese, I mean, like, what can I say? Like, I'm learning Chinese. I've been learning it for 4 months. 我学习中文。我学习。Okay, and finally, to finally complete the stream, after 2 years of learning languages, yo hablo español, un poco español, con el acento de Madrid, de España. Viva España! Je peux parler le français? Un peu. Je suis pas le meilleur. Mais wesh, j'aime bien la langue. And I speak English. 我不会说中文 and I don't speak Chinese. So, looking at all this, I don't really know entirely how to feel about this list. I feel equal parts happy and also like happier that there's a lot more to be done. It definitely shows how much time there is, but also how little time there is. To kind of put this in perspective for myself, as I did do this last year, but I didn't like fully delve into it. I kind of looked at like, okay, like if all these languages were to be like learned, then how many languages would I speak or would I have to speak? Up to here, another would be cool. Well, then obviously it gets more and more. This is 8. So the like bar, like so it goes 3, which I guess is like the status quo, like maybe 2, which I have no shame in saying. I have no shame in saying this too. I'm not like the craziest speaker of French out there. Mon français c'est pas ouf. C'est pas ouf, wesh. Mais j'aime bien la couture. et j'aime bien parler français aussi. And then Chinese, like if I could after a long time somehow say let's speak Chinese, we get four languages, which is insane. This would be crazy. This would also be crazy. Kind of feels like that's happening. This would be like insane. And this would be impossible. So it's three languages. It could be four languages. It could somehow be eight languages. And if taken to the extreme, it could be 16 languages. And I'm only saying this for motivation for you, the audience, to make your own list, put what you already speak, put what you're learning, and then think just how much further you could go just with the little amount of time that you can invest, right? Because it hasn't been that long, right? It really hasn't been that long. Like for all like the current statuses that I'm at with each language, like it really didn't take too long. I mean, English it took like 12 years, but French like it took me it took me a little bit for French. Um, it took me like a couple months for basic to like speak French basically, like basic French to then get B2, and then of course I spent a year and a half to like slowly improve. Spanish took me 5 months to study it, and then over time spoke a little bit more. Still not the greatest at it. And then Chinese, like it's only been 5 months, so I'm also not good at it. So yeah, it's only been a little bit, but this just shows you that if you spend more time than that and you're more consistent than me, you'll be speaking languages in no time. And I definitely encourage you to speak languages and learn them because they definitely changed my life. They definitely helped me become a new person and, you know, help me, realize the joy in the world. Realize that there are so many different people out there, so many different cultures, so many different languages out there that can be maybe not necessarily learned, but learned about. And knowing a little bit about a language, even if it's just tiniest amount, even just its name, is more enough to change. It's more than enough to change your entire outlook on life in the world. So this is my video. This is my list. I think I'll do the list comparison on my own, or I'll put it in a community post, as I'm very tired if you can't tell. But thank you so much for watching. If you found this video, as I'll probably archive it somewhere. And I hope to see you in the next one whenever I return. 下次见，拜拜。